Chapter 333. Zhushenzong's half-step immortal sent the powerful, fire-eyed golden ape flying. Although the fire-eyed golden ape was also a demon king, it was still weaker than an eminent celestial. It was no match for an eminent celestial. Several figures rose into the air, their strength varying. Some were half-step immortals, while others were first-step immortals. The disciples of Zhushenzong were relieved to see the experts of Zhushenzong appear. However, they still looked worriedly at the sky. Murongyu narrowed his brows and took a few steps forward to look at the people in front of him. The leader was an old acquaintance. It was Wang and the half-step immortal who had attacked him on the Immortal Ascension Plateau. Murongyu, don't go too far. Wang glared at Murongyu angrily. The others also had murderous looks on their faces. Go too far, Murongyu sneered. Back then, when I was just a Foundation establishment cultivator, you wanted to steal my treasures and kill me. If it weren't for my treasures, I would have turned into a pile of dirt by now. Back then, didn't you think you were going too far? Zhuangning Wang, you were a first-step immortal back then, right? You, the sect leader of one of the 10 great sects, attacked me? Don't you think you went too far? And you, Murongyu pointed at a first-step immortal in the crowd. This was Zhuang Ningguang's master, Zhushenzong's previous sect leader, Zhang Jing. You attacked me back then as well. I'm just a Foundation establishment cultivator, and you, 2 first-step immortals, attacked me. Don't you think you went too far? Or do you think it's right to steal a disciple's treasures? Or do you think you're the only ones who can kill and bully others? Do you remember what I said when I was expelled from Zhushenzong? One day I'll flatten Zhushenzong. Today is the day I fulfill my promise. Murongyu's cold voice resounded throughout Zhushenzong. Hearing this, Zhushenzong and the others' expressions changed. In particular, the ordinary disciples were so scared that their faces turned pale. Murongyu was able to kill an immortal, which meant that he had the ability to flatten Zhushenzong. Wang En and the others were also enraged. Every word Murongyu said struck them hard in their hearts. Especially after seeing the reactions of those disciples, they were even more furious. Murongyu's words caused a lot of distrust between Zhushenzong's disciples and the sect. In expelling Murongyu was the biggest mistake that Zhushenzong had made all these years. Murongyu, you were the one who betrayed Zhushenzong and stole the sect's immortal item. How dare you slander us? Zhushenzong's sect master Zhuangning walked out and loudly questioned Murongyu. I stole Zhushenzong's immortal item? What a joke! Why don't you say that I stole all the treasures from Zhushenzong? Murongyu was so angry that he laughed. He was completely enraged by the shamelessness of these people. Your space magic treasure belongs to Zhushenzong. If you didn't steal the sect's immortal item, why would I expel him? Zhuangning sneered. Ha. Murongyu laughed and said, I've seen shameless people, but I've never seen someone as shameless as you. Is this how one of the top 10 sects acts? Slandering a sect disciple, shameless to the extreme. Zhuangning you're the sect master of one of the top 10 sects with the strength of a first-step immortal. How can you be so shameless? You're saying that I stole your immortal item when I was only at the Foundation establishment stage? That's an immortal item, the most precious treasure of the sect. Are you all dead? How could you let a mere Foundation establishment stage disciple steal under the noses of so many first-step immortals and half-step immortals? After hearing Murongyu's righteous words, some of Zhushenzong's disciples believed him and thought that Murongyu had stolen their sect's immortal item. However, after hearing Murongyu's words, these people blushed. Even if a Foundation establishment stage cultivator gave him an immortal item, he wouldn't be able to take it away. Not to mention stealing an immortal item from so many experts of Zhushenzong. I didn't expect the sect master to be so shameless. Damn it, this sect. Many disciples who were not liked in the sect began to curse in their hearts, and they began to hate Zhushenzong. Bastard, how dare you quibble? Zhuangning was extremely angry and shouted fiercely. Murongyu's face darkened, and his eyes shot out a fierce, killing intent. He took a step forward and disappeared on the spot in a flash. Slap! Just as Murongyu's figure disappeared, Murongyu appeared beside Zhuangning and slapped him across the face. The crisp sound of the slaps spread far and wide. At this moment, it seemed that the entire Zhushenzong was filled with this crisp sound. At the same time, the left side of Zhuang Ningguang's face was swollen like a steamed bun. Zhuang Ningguang stood there in a daze, stunned by Murong Yu's slap. God! The sect master was slapped by Murong Yu. On the ground, many disciples of Zhushenzong stared blankly at the sky. Most of them saw Murong Yu slap Zhuang Ningguang, and the stunned look on Zhuang Ningguang's face made them feel complicated. From this point alone, it could be seen how big the gap between Zhuang Ningguang and Murong Yu was. Wang Yin and the others also felt their hearts skip a beat. They only reacted after Murong Yu slapped Zhuang Ningguang. Murong Yu's speed was too fast, so fast that they couldn't react in time. Zhuang Ningguang touched his swollen face and was stunned for a while before he finally reacted. He then shouted, "Murong Yu, you bastard! How dare you hit me?" At the same time, a terrifying aura erupted from Zhuang Ningguang's body. He turned into a stream of light and rushed toward Murong Yu. "Come back." Wang Yin saw this and frowned. He stretched out his hand and stopped Zhuang Ningguang. "Supreme Elder, let me kill him." Zhuang Ningguang was furious. Wang Yin's face was also very gloomy. Zhuang Ningguang was the sect master of Zhushenzong, but now he was slapped in the face in front of everyone. This slap was not only on Zhuang Ningguang's face, but also on everyone's faces, including Zhushenzong. This slap was directly on Zhushenzong's dignity. Zhushenzong's dignity as one of the top 10 sects was shattered by Murong Yu's slap. "Murong Yu, you can kill an immortal. I admit that you are very strong. However, if you think that you can destroy the Void Sky sect by yourself, then you're overestimating yourself. Activate the Protective Mountain Formation." Wang Yin's voice was as deep as water. He looked at Murong Yu with a terrifying, murderous intent. Murong Yu looked at him with disdain. He already knew that Zhushenzong had a Protective Mountain Formation. However, he still came without fear. Even the formation outside the Immortal Necropolis couldn't block Hichu Luoshu's teleportation, let alone Zhushenzong's formation. Therefore, Murong Yu just floated in the air and didn't do anything to stop him. At the same time, waves of terrifying aura were constantly emitted from Zhushenzong. Rays of divine light shot out from Zhushenzong's mountain peak and condensed in the air. They formed a huge shield that covered the entire Zhushenzong. The mountain guarding formation was a sect's most powerful defensive measure. It was also a sect's last resort. Generally speaking, the protective mountain formation of each sect would not be activated. Only when they encountered a powerful enemy would they activate the protective mountain formation to prevent the enemy from entering the sect. At this time, they had activated the protective mountain formation to trap Murong Yu in Zhushenzong. They were probably going to stake everything on this one throw to kill Murong Yu. Murong Yu's spatial treasure and the Yin-Yang Cauldron were things that even the immortal emperors of the immortal world coveted, let alone them. The reason why they didn't make a move before was because they were preparing to activate the protective mountain formation. In fact, before they appeared, they had already secretly activated the protective mountain formation. Looking at the protective mountain formation that covered Zhushenzong like a thin film, Murong Yu suddenly laughed. "I was worried about how to catch all of you in one fell swoop. Now, none of you can leave Zhushenzong. Today, all of you will die." Wang took a step forward with a cold expression. He looked at Murong Yu with murderous intent. "Bastard, you're still so arrogant when you're about to die." As he spoke, figures constantly rose from the depths of Zhushenzong. They were all first-step immortals and half-step immortals. Murong Yu was powerful and could kill immortals. However, Wang Yin and the others didn't think that he was invincible. Although Zhushenzong didn't have any immortals, they had many first-step immortals and half-step immortals. They could even kill Murong Yu with numbers. As long as they killed Murong Yu and obtained his treasures, even if more than half of Zhushenzong's experts died today, they would be able to quickly recover. After all, the Yin-Yang Cauldron could burn immortal gates. Looking at the first-step immortals and half-step immortals surrounding the three of them, Murong Yu only sneered. "Old Black, Golden Ape, are the two of you okay?" looking at the hundreds of first-step immortals and half-step immortals, as well as the countless disciples of other cultivation levels. The large black dog and the fire-eyed golden ape were a little scared. They weren't as heaven-defying as Murong-yu. These people gave them a lot of pressure. However, as people by Murong-yu's side, how could they be scared when even Murong-yu wasn't afraid? No problem. It just so happens that my strength has increased recently. It's a good opportunity to train with them, the fire-eyed golden ape said, pretending to be relaxed. They're all delicious. The large black dog's eyes lit up as he looked at the crowd, drooling. Haha, since that's the case, then the three of us will destroy Zushinzong today. We'll turn the world upside down and make rivers of blood flow. Murong-yu laughed loudly. Then his figure flashed and disappeared. Chapter 334. Be careful. The instant Murong-yu's figure disappeared, Wang Un, who had witnessed Murong-yu's frightening speed, couldn't help but roar. At the same time, he raised his strength to the maximum and slammed his palm forward in an attempt to stop Murong-yu. However, how could a mere half-step celestial like him resist Murong-yu, who had already decided to kill him? In a flash, Murong-yu appeared in the crowd of Wang Un and the others. At the same time, the phoenix spear appeared in his hand, and he thrust it forward. With a loud bang, the spear pierced through a one-step celestial from Zushinzong. His body exploded from the terrifying power of the spear. Then, the long spear swept out with a force that could wipe out thousands of soldiers. Whoosh! A huge spear light gushed out from the long spear. It was like a huge waterfall, splitting the void apart. Bang! 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 How fast was Murong-yu's attack? How terrifying was his strength? The one-step celestials and eminent celestials from Zushinzong did not even have time to react before they were hit by the spear or the spear ray. These people were the strongest in the cultivation world. However, they could not withstand a single blow from Murong-yu, who could kill celestials. They were instantly turned into blood mists. One strike. Murong-yu didn't even use any battle skills. Instead, he merely swept out his spear, yet more than a dozen of the Void Sky Sect's top experts have been killed by him. In just a blink of an eye, more than a dozen experts were killed. The people who went around Zushinzong were shocked and frightened. However, compared to the hundreds of one-step celestials and eminent celestials from Zushinzong, the deaths of more than a dozen experts were nothing. Wang Un and the others finally reacted to Murong-yu's attack. Each of them tried their best to increase their strength. Terrifying energy surged out from each of them and shot up into the sky. Even the protective shield formed by Zushinzong's protective mountain formation was trembling under the impact of the energy. Let's kill him together. A few eminent celestials shouted as they attacked Murong-yu with all their strength. Then, the experts who came to their senses also unleashed their strength and attacked Murong-yu. However, Wang Un and the others ignored the big black dog and the fire-eyed golden ape. Each of them had an eminent celestial holding them back. After all, their main goal was to kill Murong-yu. Once they killed Murong-yu, it would be easy to kill the big black dog and the fire-eyed golden ape. Moreover, Murong-yu was too strong. They could only kill him if they gathered all their strength. While the one-step celestials and eminent celestials were attacking, many disciples of Zushinzong in the distance, such as half-celestials, transformation stage, and tribulation stage cultivators, also attacked Murong-yu under the command of some people. Murong-yu had already summoned the Heat 2 and the Book of Luo to the surface of his body. Furthermore, he had already opened up the Heat 2 and the Book of Luo. As long as an attack reached him, it would be transferred into the world of the Heat 2 and the Book of Luo, making it impossible to hurt him. When Murong-yu killed Celestial Suda, he took advantage of this to stay in an invincible position and kill Suda. However, at this moment, there were hundreds of one-step celestials and countless half-celestials and transformation stage cultivators attacking Zushinzong. Even exalted celestials wouldn't dare to fight against their combined strength. Even if Murong-yu had the Hichu Luoshu world, he wouldn't dare to fight them head-on. After all, these attacks were too strong. Although the Hichu Luoshu world could withstand these attacks, Moronyu wasn't strong enough. However, Moronyu wasn't strong enough. If he couldn't transfer all the energy into the He-Tu and the inscription of the Luo during this process, then he'd be in danger. He might really be killed by Wang, En, and the others. Moreover, Moronyu found it strange that Zushenzong had so many one-step celestials and eminent celestials. When they were on the immortal ascension stage, many of their experts had died. Could it be that only a small portion of Zushenzong went to the immortal ascension stage? In fact, this was the case. Even if there were immortal ascension stage cultivators, there would be immortal ascension stage cultivators. However, for sects like the Void Sky sect, it was impossible for all of their experts to rush over. After all, they still needed experts to guard their sections. Otherwise, if those immortals really ascended, Zushenzong world would be destroyed by other sections. This was originally a reserved method. However, the sects didn't expect that many of their people would die instead of ascending to the immortal ascension stage. Because only a small number of people went to the immortal ascension stage, these sects suffered the least losses. Most of the people who died were from small sects and row cultivators. However, in Moronyu's eyes, no matter how many experts Zushenzong world had, they wouldn't be able to stop Zushenzong world from being destroyed. Moronyu couldn't help revealing a trace of disdain when he saw the raindrops of energy enveloping him and pouring down on him in an attempt to kill him. Yin-Yang Cauldron, Yin-Yang Fire, burn the world. Moronyu roared in his heart as he took out the Yin-Yang Cauldron. The Yin-Yang Cauldron expanded with the wind and instantly grew to the size of a mountain. It came crashing down on the crowd. At the same time, under Moronyu's control, an endless amount of Yin-Yang fire spewed out. Huge holes were burned in the void. When the energy that came in contact with the Yin-Yang fire, it was incinerated, leaving nothing behind. Furthermore, when the Yin-Yang fire sprayed down, dozens of experts who couldn't teleport in time were burned to ashes. However, Moronyu's brows were slightly furrowed. The Yin-Yang fire was powerful, but when it incinerated countless attacks, it also consumed a lot of energy. After all, the Yin-Yang fire didn't last forever. It would be consumed. No matter how powerful the Yin-Yang fire was, it would still be consumed when it incinerated billions of attacks. Furthermore, under the bombardment of billions of attacks, the Yin-Yang fire was being consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. There was Yin-Yang fire in the Yin-Yang Cauldron, but Moronyu didn't know if the Yin-Yang fire was endless. If it was endless, Moronyu wouldn't be worried. He only needed to incinerate everything with the Yin-Yang fire. However, if it was limited, if the Yin-Yang fire was suddenly exhausted during the battle, it would be tragic. Furthermore, at the rate it was being consumed, Moronyu's energy would be severely depleted. Moreover, everyone knew how terrifying the Yin-Yang fire was. The experts from Zushenzong were staring at Moronyu. Before his Yin-Yang fire could reach them, they had retreated far away. This made Moronyu depressed and helpless. Helpless, Moronyu could only take back the Yin-Yang Cauldron. It floated above his head, and the Yin-Yang fire rained down to protect him. In this way, with the double protection of the Yin-Yang fire and the Hichu Luoshu, Moronyu was basically invincible. The killing has officially begun. Moronyu took a deep breath, then let out a low roar. His figure flashed, and he disappeared from where he stood. Bang! All of a sudden, a black spear pierced out of the void and killed a first-step immortal. At the same time, Moronyu punched out with his other hand and killed another first-step immortal. At this moment, Moronyu's figure appeared in the void. However, before Moronyu could regain his footing, his figure blurred and instantly disappeared. Bang! 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 Moronyu's speed was even faster than a mortal Su does by a bit. He disappeared and reappeared again and again. Every time he reappeared, a first-step immortal would be killed by him. With Moronyu's strength, a first-step immortal was like an ant. Even a half-step immortal could not withstand 2 moves from Moronyu. A first-step immortal was like an ant in the eyes of a half-step immortal. An half-step immortal was like an ant in the eyes of an immortal. Although Murong Yu had not reached the immortal realm, his strength was enough to kill an immortal. Therefore, an half-step immortal was like an ant in his eyes. Therefore, when Murong Yu moved, it meant that the killing had officially begun. Although there were many experts in Zhushenzong, none of them could withstand more than 3 moves from Murong Yu. Murong Yu's speed, in particular, allowed him to appear in unexpected places without anyone noticing. Void Seal. Wang Yin and the others were shocked and furious when they saw that dozens of first-step immortals and even half-step immortals were killed by Murong Yu. Buzz! A wave of ripples spread out in all directions in the void. The void had been sealed. After the void was sealed, it was impossible to teleport, unless one was strong enough to shatter the power that sealed the void. Clearly, although Murong Yu was powerful, he wasn't powerful to such an extent. Kill him. When Wang Un and the others saw that the void was sealed, they roared and rushed forward. Although Murong Yu was strong, without his strange speed, he could only be killed. Originally, Wang Un and the others thought that Murong Yu would be frightened after the void was sealed. However, at this moment, Murong Yu did not look frightened. Instead, he looked disdainful. When Wang Un and the others saw Murong Yu's expression, they had a bad feeling, but they did not know what it was. However, when Murong Yu's figure flashed and disappeared from where he stood, they knew that something wasn't right. Murong Yu was actually unable to be controlled by the Void Seal. Had he already become so powerful? In an instant, everyone in Zhushenzong, especially the strong experts, felt despair. Chapter 335. With a sweep of the long spear, a large part of the void was shattered. Countless cultivators were directly blown up by Murong Yu. With a slap of the big hand, dozens of Zhushenzong experts who did not have time to escape were directly smashed into a bloody mist. Murong Yu's strength was enough to make one's hair stand on end. With a sway of his body, Murong Yu's speed was like a ghost, constantly rushing into the crowd. Every time he paused, an expert would be killed. Because of the Void Seal, the people of Zhushenzong could not teleport. Without teleportation, although they were not slow, they were as slow as snails in front of Murong Yu. In fact, after the Void Seal, Murong Yu could not teleport. But why did he keep teleporting? Since he entered the Crossing Calamity stage, he had combined the soldier formula with teleportation. His teleportation was far longer than ordinary people. This was beyond the scope of teleportation. In fact, it was not teleportation but speed. Yes, it was the speed of the soldier formula. At this time, Murong Yu looked like he was teleporting, but in fact, he was flying. It was only because he was so fast that it looked like he was teleporting. On one side, he could not teleport and was as slow as a snail, while on the other side, he was as fast as teleportation. Murong Yu was like a wolf in a flock of sheep and began to kill crazily. In a few breaths, hundreds of experts had died in his hands. Most of them were one-step immortals. There were even some half-step immortals. Seeing that the experts on their side were constantly killed because they could not teleport, Wang Un and the others roared, "Quickly, remove the Void Seal." The one who had sealed the space wasn't Murong Yu, but their own people. They were simply trapped in a trap of their own making. Soul Summoning Banner. Murong Yu sneered and took out the Soul Summoning Banner. Then, with his full strength, demonic flames swept wildly in all directions. At this time, the Soul Summoning Banner that Murong Yu used could even shake the souls of immortals, let alone one-step immortals and half-step immortals. In an instant, demonic flames swept out in all directions. Zhushenzong's experts, transformation stage experts, half-immortals, and even first-step immortals began to fall from the sky. Their souls were directly destroyed by the Soul Summoning Banner. Only the eminent celestials managed to escape far away from the Soul Summoning Banner. As soon as the Soul Summoning Banner appeared, Zhushenzong's experts who had besieged Murong Yu, including most of the first-step immortals, all died. All of a sudden, the ant-like crowd surrounding Murong Yu was emptied out. In the distance, there were close to 100 experts looking at Murong Yu with murderous intent. Their faces were filled with anger, as if they wanted to eat Murong Yu alive. When the disciples of Zhushenzong saw this scene, they felt even more hopeless. Many of them even had the idea of escaping Zhushenzong. However, now that Zhushenzong's mountain protecting formation had been activated, no one could leave or enter Zhushenzong, even if they were Zhushenzong's disciples, unless the mountain protecting formation was removed or destroyed. Cosmos Bow, sky-shaking arrow. Seeing the experts of Zhushenzong surrounding him from afar, Murong Yu just stood in the void and did not continue to chase after them. With his speed, it was not impossible for him to kill all of them, but it would take too much time. Therefore, Murong Yu took out the Cosmos Bow and Sky-shaking arrow. Cosmos Bow and Sky-shaking arrow. This was a terrifying weapon that could even kill immortals. When Wang En and the others saw that Murong Yu had actually brought them out, their expressions instantly changed. Chi! 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 Murong Yu did not care about what they were thinking. He immediately drew the bow and shot the arrows. In an instant, 3 golden lights shot out and disappeared into the void. Bang! 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 Just like when he shot Suda, when the sky-shaking arrow shot out from the void, the 3 eminent celestials of Zhushenzong had nowhere to run and were directly shot to death. However, after killing the 3 eminent celestials, the sky-shaking arrow automatically flew back to Murong Yu's hand. Murong Yu drew the bow again and shot another arrow. Bang! 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 Another 3 eminent celestials were killed. The 3rd time, the 4th time, Murong Yu kept drawing the bow and shooting sky-shaking arrows. Every time, 3 eminent celestials were killed. They could not escape or resist. In an instant, dozens of eminent celestials were killed. Most of the eminent celestials of Zhushenzong had died. Only 30 to 40 eminent celestials were looking at Murong Yu furiously. The power in their hands was frantically trying to strangle Murong Yu. However, due to the relationship between the Yin-Yang flame and the Hichu Luoshu, these powers could not hit Murong Yu at all. They were either burned by the Yin-Yang flame or transferred to the Hichu Luoshu world. Could it be that the heavens really want us, Zhushenzong, to die? The remaining eminent celestials of Zhushenzong had already lost all hope. Murong Yu was really too powerful. They, Zhushenzong, were no match for him at all. Originally, even if an immortal came, they still had the power to fight back. However, Murong Yu is even more difficult to deal with than an immortal. An immortal did not have as many treasures as he did. Because of these treasures, Murong Yu was basically in an invincible position. In addition to his powerful strength, killing eminent celestials was like slaughtering dogs. Even if Zhushenzong used the power of the entire sect, they would still not be a match for him. Murong Yu kept shooting arrows, and eminent celestials were constantly killed. Zhushenzong's eminent celestials were getting fewer and fewer. Zhushenzong was also getting closer to extinction. Master, are you really not going to stop Murong Yu? 2 people were hidden in the distant sky. From beginning to end, they had been watching Murong Yu kill the eminent celestials of Zhushenzong. They were the divine Punisher and his eminent celestial servant. Stop him? Why should I stop him? The divine Punisher asked indifferently. He continued, the Huaxiao world of cultivation has been peaceful for too many years. These large sects have occupied most of the resources in the world of cultivation. If they continue to develop like this, they will only become stronger and stronger. The other sects will only be constantly suppressed by them. It will be difficult for them to survive. The world of cultivation also needs a change of dynasties. It was unknown whether the divine Punisher was talking to his servant or to himself. After he finished speaking, he fell silent. After hearing this, the eminent celestial servant fell silent. However, he was thinking in his heart, it seems that not only Zhushenzong is going to perish, but the other sects won't be any better. This next divine Punisher really knows how to cause trouble. Zhuang Ningguang, all of this is because of you. Zhushenzong's extinction was caused by you. I wonder how you feel right now. Under Murong Yu's relentless attacks, Zhushenzong's eminent celestials and eminent celestials were basically all dead. At this moment, there were about 4 or 5 eminent celestials left. Among them were Zhushenzong's sect leader, Zhuang Ningguang, the previous sect leader, Zhang Jing, and Wang An. There were also 2 eminent celestials who were fighting against Blackie and the fire-eyed golden ape. Regret. Annoyance. At this moment, there was only regret in Zhuang Ningguang's heart. If he had known that Murongyu was so powerful, he wouldn't have forced him out of Zhushenzong. If it weren't for him, Murongyu wouldn't have betrayed Zhushenzong. If Murongyu had stayed in Zhushenzong, Zhushenzong might have become the most powerful sect in the world of cultivation because of him. However, he had pushed Murongyu to the opposite side, which ultimately led to the extinction of Zhushenzong. Now, Zhushenzong still had hundreds of thousands of disciples. However, these people were no threat to Murongyu. Most importantly, those disciples who had lost all hope wouldn't make a move at all. They had completely lost hope in the sect. If possible, they would definitely turn around and leave the sect. Murongyu was originally a powerhouse in their sect, but they had forced him to become their enemy. How could they continue to be reluctant to leave such a sect? Zhuang Ningguang, Zhang Jing, when I was just a cultivator in the foundation establishment stage, you attacked me. At that time, I swore that one day I would flatten Zhushenzong and kill you with my own hands. And Wang An, as an half-step immortal and a top powerhouse in the world of cultivation, you attacked a junior like me. Did you ever think that today would happen? Murongyu looked indifferently at the pale-faced and despaired 3 people and said in a cold voice, "The 3 of you should kill yourselves." Murongyu suddenly said. He suddenly didn't want to kill these 3 people, because he realized that it would be too easy for them if he killed them. He wanted to force Zhuang Ningguang and the other 2 to kill themselves. This was the price they had to pay for trying to kill him. Murongyu, I admit that you are very powerful. You destroyed Zhushenzong alone. However, before I die, I have a request. I hope that after we die, you can let go of the other disciples of Zhushenzong. They have nothing to do with this. Zhuang Ningguang suddenly said. Murongyu sneered and looked at Zhuang Ningguang indifferently. You have no right to ask me. More than 20 years ago, I said that I would flatten Zhushenzong. Today, Zhushenzong must die. Fine. Zhuang Ningguang suddenly let out a long sigh. Then he knelt down in the air towards the depths of the Void Sky sect and kowtowed 3 times. Ancestors of the Void Sky sect, I'm sorry that I, Zhuang Ningguang, am unable to bring glory to the Void Sky sect. Zhushenzong died in my hands. I am a sinner of Zhushenzong. Bang! Zhuang Ningguang slowly stood up. He glanced at Zhushenzong and then slapped his head. His head was smashed into pieces, and he died an unnatural death. A sect leader of a generation actually met such a tragic end. It was lamentable. Murongyu's expression did not change as he looked at Wang An and Zhang Jing. The 2 of them sighed again and again. However, they decisively smashed their own heads into a watermelon and ended their lives. Seeing Zhuang Ningguang and the others die, the 2 half-step celestials who were fighting the fire-eyed golden ape and the big black dog were shocked. They knew that they could not survive today. In the end, they gave up on attacking and defending and were killed by the big black dog and the fire-eyed golden ape. At this point, all the experts of Zhushenzong who were half-step celestials and above had died. Not a single one was left. Even more than half of the cultivators in the transformation stage had died. Who allowed them to attack Murongyu? Murongyu used the soul-summoning banner and directly shattered their souls. After this round of battle, many of Zhushenzong's ordinary disciples were also affected and died an unnatural death. Zhushenzong's experts were all dead. Only a few 100,000 ordinary disciples were left. At this time, these people were surrounded by the protective mountain array and could not escape. They could only wait to be slaughtered by Murongyu. Chapter 336. All of Zhushenzong's elites who were half-immortals and above were killed. From the beginning to the end, other than the fire-eyed golden ape and the big black dog who were slightly injured, Murongyu was not injured at all. He killed all of Zhushenzong's elites without suffering any losses. In other words, he destroyed Zhushenzong, one of the top 10 sects of the cultivation world, without suffering any losses. His strength was unimaginable. At this moment, Murong Yu, the big black dog, and the fire-eyed golden ape stood in the sky above Zhushenzong, looking down at Zhushenzong from afar. At this moment, the hundreds of thousands of Zhushenzong's disciples were all gathered in the open space outside. Their expressions were mournful, and their hearts were filled with despair as they looked at Murong Yu and the others in the sky. The protective mountain formation still enveloped Zhushenzong, and they were unable to leave Zhushenzong at all. Fight Murong Yu to the death. What a joke. Even so many first-step immortals and half-step immortals could not defeat Murong Yu. Weren't they seeking death? Many people heard Murong Yu's words. Zhushenzong will be destroyed today. Yes, after Wang and the other elites died, Zhushenzong could be considered to have been destroyed. Although there were still hundreds of thousands of ordinary disciples, they were unable to support a large sect like Zhushenzong. Now, they were facing the tragic fate of being slaughtered by Murong Yu. No one doubted that Murong Yu's words were just empty words. If he said to flatten Zhushenzong, then he would flatten Zhushenzong, and by flatten, he meant to destroy Zhushenzong, not leaving a single one alive. Looking at the Zhushenzong's disciples below, the fire-eyed golden ape turned to Murong Yu and said, "Hundreds of thousands of ants. My lord, let me and the big black dog kill them." Is it starting? Hearing the fire-eyed golden ape's words, the hundreds of thousands of disciples could not help but smile bitterly. No one resisted, and no one did anything else because they knew that no matter what they did, it would be futile. What awaited them today was a situation of certain death. Murong Yu didn't say anything. At the same time, a shadow flashed beside him, and a figure appeared beside him. Leader. As soon as the person appeared, he bowed to Murong Yu. Murong Yu nodded and continued to look at Zhushenzong. Wu Feng, you know what to do. This person was really Wu Feng. He had joined Zhushenzong with Murong Yu more than 20 years ago. In the end, he left Zhushenzong with Murong Yu and joined the chaos. His strength had long reached the transformation stage. Wu Feng nodded. He already knew what to do. He took a few steps forward and walked in front of Murong Yu and the others. He glanced at Zhushenzong below and spread out his powerful divine thought. When he saw the experts' corpses on the ground, although he already knew that Murong Yu had the ability to eliminate Zhushenzong, he could not help but be shocked. However, he was even more fortunate that he'd been following Murong Yu since a long time ago. If not, he would not have reached the transformation stage in just over 20 years. Reaching the transformation stage in just over 20 years. Other than Murong Yu, there were very few people who could have such a terrifying speed. Even if there were, it could be counted on one hand. Not long after, Wu Feng found his target among the many people in Zhushenzong. At this time, those who knew Wu Feng had also recognized his identity. A powerful aura was constantly emitted from Wu Feng's body. This was the aura of a transformation stage cultivator. It was so oppressive that many disciples in Zhushenzong were almost unable to breathe. Zhaolin, Wang Hai, Chun Yuan, do you still recognize me? Wu Feng looked at the three people in the crowd and slowly walked down. He was a bit closer to the ground. Over 20 years ago, we joined Zhushenzong in the same batch. At the same time, there was also Boss Murong Yu. Over 20 years have passed, and Boss Murong Yu has already grown to the point where he can kill immortals. The speed of his cultivation is absolutely unprecedented and will never be surpassed in the future. Wu Feng continued to speak as he looked at Zhao Lin and the others. At that time, we were in the same batch of disciples that entered the Void Sky sect. My aptitude was the worst. However, after more than 20 years, I've already reached the transformation stage. But what about you? Your aptitudes are definitely better than mine, but what about your cultivation? At this point, Wu Feng couldn't help but sneer. Although your overall strength is strong, you're only at the late stage of the revolving reflection stage. You are only close to the fusion stage. Compared to my transformation stage, there is a difference of 8 stages. Hearing this, many disciples in Zhushenzong fell silent. Zhao Lin and the others' aptitudes were not good. To be able to cultivate to the peak of the revolving reflection stage in 20 years was already not slow. There were even many disciples who remained in the foundation establishment stage their entire lives. Zhao Lin and the others who were called out by Wu Feng were somewhat angry. Zhao Lin walked out and coldly looked at Wu Feng. He loudly said, "Wu Feng, what do you mean? We treated you well in the beginning. Are you trying to humiliate us? If that's the case, feel free to kill us. Anyway, with your strength, killing us is as easy as turning your hand." Wu Feng laughed. "Why would I kill you? Why would I humiliate you? As you said, you treated me well in the beginning. The reason why I said this is to tell you that with your aptitudes, your cultivation speed should be faster than mine. But now the gap between you and me is so big." What is the reason for this? Isn't it just following Murong Yu? As the saying goes, when a man attains the Tao, even his chickens and dogs ascend to heaven. Zhao Lin said with some disdain, but behind the disdain, there was a trace of envy. They were indeed very envious of Wu Feng, but there were some things that they could not envy. Who told them to be blind and not have a good relationship with Murong Yu? Murong Yu was cruel and merciless to his enemies, but he was very generous to his own people. This could be seen from the fact that Wu Feng's cultivation had been raised to the transformation stage. If it were not for Murong Yu's help, with Wu Feng's aptitudes, he would not have been able to reach the transformation stage in his lifetime. You are right. It is because I followed Murong Yu that when a man attains the Tao, even his chickens and dogs ascend to heaven. Not only me, but the rest of the people who followed Murong Yu are also not weak. And you are the disciples of Zhushenzong, one of the top 10 sects in the cultivation world. But what did you get from the sect? Was it 20 years to reach the revolving reflection stage? Not even reaching the fusion stage? The disciples of Zhushenzong became even more silent, but some of the disciples looked at Wu Feng with shining eyes, and even at Murong Yu who was in the air. They already vaguely understood what Wu Feng meant by this sentence. In the cultivation world, strength is respected. Whoever has the hardest fist is the boss. Although Zhushenzong is one of the top 10 sects, Zhushenzong's upper echelons are all selfish. They always think about themselves and their loved ones. Disciples, you ordinary disciples, do not have any treatment in Zhushenzong. However, Boss Murong Yu is different. No matter who it is, as long as there is people, he'll take good care of them. Even if they're the most ordinary person, Boss Murong Yu won't give them up. For people with aptitudes like mine, even if it is not the worst, it is not much better. But Murong Yu took care of me very much and raised my strength to the transformation stage. Now, Zhushenzong has been destroyed. Although Murong Yu said that he would flatten Zhushenzong, but in fact, besides killing Zhushenzong's experts, he has already fulfilled his original promise. As for you, Murong Yu will not kill you. Moreover, Murong Yu has an idea. He wants to establish a sect in the cultivation world. If any of you are willing, you can choose to stay. If not, you can also leave. After saying these words, Wu Feng returned to Murong Yu's side. If you follow me, I will not treat you unfairly. If you are not willing, I will not make things difficult for you. Think about it carefully. At the same time, I warn you that I, Murong Yu, want absolute loyalty. Loyal people, if your character is not good, then don't stay. Because I don't want to see a black sheep in the sect in the future. I want people who are absolutely loyal to the sect. Of course, if one day I, Murong Yu, am killed by someone and the higher-ups of the sect are killed by someone, then you can run for your lives. I don't want you to be blindly loyal people. Before his voice fell, Murong Yu had already flown into the depths of Zhushenzong. With Murong Yu's strength, he could directly break Zhushenzong's mountain protecting formation. However, Murong Yu still needed this mountain protecting formation because he wanted to occupy Zhushenzong as the mountain gate of his sect. In front of Hichu, a formation master, Zhushenzong's mountain lake battle was quickly broken and cancelled. Then, Murong Yu and his group flew back to Zhushenzong. Those who are not willing to stay can leave now. Murong Yu's voice slowly spread throughout Zhushenzong. Then, one figure after another flew out of Zhushenzong. Murong Yu's expression did not change as he watched these people leave Zhushenzong. He did not stop them. Seeing that Murongyu really let them leave, more people left Zushinzong. After half a day, no one left Zushinzong. Those who stayed were willing to follow Murongyu. Wu Feng came to Murongyu's side with a pained expression and said, "Boss Murong, there are still 300,000 people who are willing to stay. 500,000 people have left." 800,000. Zushinzong actually had 800,000 disciples. Murongyu's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Zushinzong had a lot of disciples, but he didn't know that his sect had almost reached 1,000,000. Presumably, the other sects should be similar. However, Zushinzong had almost 1,000,000 disciples, but there were only a few hundred experts above the first step immortal realm. This ratio was really too low. Seeing Wu Feng's pained expression, Murongyu of course knew why he was like this. He couldn't help but laugh. Those who left will regret it. I believe that soon, there will be more disciples joining our sect. Remember, those Zushinzong disciples who left, no matter how heaven-defying their talents are, can't be allowed to join our sect. Wu Feng nodded. Murongyu continued to ask, how many people in the transformation stage are still staying? None, Wu Feng said gloomily. Chapter 337. Murongyu stared blankly and was speechless. Although many of the transformation stage cultivators were killed, there were also many who survived. None of them were able to stay. However, Murongyu felt that this was the most normal thing. Transformation stage cultivators were the elites of each sect. The sect spent countless resources on them to nurture them. They were loyal to their original sect, so it was normal for them not to want to stay. Zhang Ao, Wu Feng, young man, go organize these Zushinzong disciples and settle them down. Our sect will be here. Murongyu released Zhang Ao and some of the higher-ups of the Primal Chaos members from the Hichu Luoshu world and let them start organizing Zushinzong. Leader, what is our sect called? Is it also called Primal Chaos? Young man hesitated and asked. Murongyu wanted to establish a sect, but this sect didn't have a name yet. Primal Chaos Shenzhen. The sect will be called Primal Chaos Shenzhen. In the future, every sect leader of Shenzhen will be called Sacred Lord. I will be the first Sacred Lord of Shenzhen, the founder of Primal Chaos Shenzhen. Primal Chaos Shenzhen. Everyone's eyes lit up. They first looked at each other, then bowed to Murongyu. Sacred Lord. Murongyu nodded and ordered them to settle the Zushinzong disciples. No, they were already Primal Chaos Shenzhen's disciples. Zushinzong was destroyed by Murongyu alone. Murongyu took in some of Zushinzong's disciples and established his own sect, Primal Chaos Shenzhen. After these two pieces of news spread, the cultivation world was once again shaken. Although Murongyu could kill immortals and was very powerful. However, the annihilation of Zushinzong, one of the top 10 sects, by himself still shocked the world. This was especially true for large sects like the Yuan Su sect, which had a deep grudge against Murongyu. Murongyu actually had the ability to kill Zushinzong, so naturally he also had the ability to kill them, which made them feel uneasy. Moreover, Murongyu had actually established his own sect. Murongyu had countless magic treasures on him, and he was so powerful that he could kill immortals and single-handedly wipe out one of the 10 great sections. With such a strong person establishing a sect, he was afraid that his Primal Chaos Shenzhen would rise very quickly. Furthermore, with Zushinzong's many resources as a backing, Murongyu was not like a newly established force that lacked resources. Although the Chaos Shenzhen was not as good as the other sects in terms of top experts. However, as long as Murongyu existed, the other sects in the cultivation world could not compare to Murongyu. Moreover, Murongyu would definitely become an immortal. After becoming an immortal, Murongyu's lifespan would increase sharply. If he did not ascend and continued to guard the Chaos Shenzhen, it would be difficult for the Shenzhen not to become powerful. However, if these people knew that Murongyu did not care about Zushinzong's pills at all, and if they knew that there were 100,000 transformation stage cultivators in the Hichu Luoshu world, what would they think? 100,000 transformation stage cultivators. Even the top 10 sects would not have so many experts. However, although some of the 100,000 members of the Chaos were close to the half-immortal realm, there were no one-step immortals or half-step immortals who were the top existences in the cultivation world. In the cultivation world, the Chaos Shenzhen only had 3 top-level experts: Murongyu, the fire-eyed golden ape, and the big black dog. If they left the cultivation world, the Chaos Shenzhen would not have any top-level experts to guard it. At that time, the Chaos Shenzhen would be besieged by the other sects and forces in the cultivation world. Without a large number of top-level experts to guard it, the Chaos Shenzhen would definitely not be a match for the other forces and sections. It would only be destroyed. Unfortunately, even if we accelerate the time in the Hichu Luoshu world, we can't produce more half-immortals, let alone one-step immortals and half-step immortals. Murongyu thought helplessly. With the support of endless pills and spirit veins, Murongyu could use the Hichu Luoshu world to accelerate time and produce a large number of transformation stage cultivators. However, he could not produce experts above the half-immortal realm. This was because even if he accelerated time, he could not make the immortal spiritual energy of the immortal world descend faster and transform their bodies. After all, the immortal door that they blasted open during their tribulations determined the speed of their immortal body transformation. Although the immortal door was invisible, there is a certain amount of immortal spiritual energy that flowed down at every moment. Unless he increased the speed of their flow, accelerating time would be useless. Unless there is an immortal ascension pill. Murongyu's eyes flashed. An immortal ascension pill could accelerate the transformation of an immortal body. It had the same effect as immortal spiritual energy and was even more powerful than immortal spiritual energy. At the thought of the immortal ascension pill, Murongyu could not help but curse in his heart. An immortal ascension pill had appeared at the auction where he had obtained the branch of life. At that time, Murongyu was poor and had used almost all of his money to auction off the Realm Breaker pill. In the end, he could only watch helplessly as Zhuang Ningguang bought the immortal ascension pill for a price of 1 trillion essence recovery pills. However, after Murongyu had destroyed Zhushenzong and taken over Zhushenzong's possessions, he had not found an immortal ascension pill in Zhushenzong's treasury or in Zhuang Ningguang's storage ring. Could it be that Zhuang Ningguang had wasted the immortal ascension pill? Murongyu wondered. At that time, Zhuang Ningguang had only been a half-step immortal, but before that, he had been a one-step immortal. With Zhuang Ningguang's talent, there was no way he could have broken through to the next realm in just 20 years. Without an immortal ascension stage, there is no way he could have produced a large number of top experts. After this, I'll go to the Bada Chamber of Commerce and see if they have one. In the following time, Zhang Ao and the others reorganized the Chaos Shenzhen's disciples, while Murongyu began to strengthen the Chaos Shenzhen's Grand Mountain Guarding Array with Hichu's help. This Grand Mountain Guarding Array has no lethality. It can't withstand a single blow from an immortal. It's best to set up an immortal jutting array outside the Shenzhen. Even an immortal would not be able to break in, Hichu said disdainfully as he looked at the strengthened Grand Mountain Guarding Array. Immortal jutting array? If it was just an ordinary immortal jutting array, it would be useless. If one wanted to block an immortal's immortal jutting array, they would have to use an immortal sword as the base and core of the array. However, where would Murongyu get an immortal weapon? He did not have enough immortal weapons to begin with, and now he had to take care of the Chaos Shenzhen's hundreds of thousands of disciples. Although he got a few immortal weapons from Zhushenzong after killing Zhushenzong, he could not use these immortal weapons to set up an array. After all, the Chaos Shenzhen also needed the sect guarding immortal weapons. Maybe the Enforcer has them? Hichu suggested. Murongyu's eyes suddenly lit up, and he patted Hichu's shoulder hard. Then, he led Hichu and the others into the Hichu Luoshu world and teleported to the heaven-ceasing peak. Old man, I see you're here. Murongyu walked straight into the Enforcer's hall, said, and then sat down on the chair next to him. The Enforcer just looked at him indifferently, and then closed his eyes again. Old man, You don't have to be too enthusiastic about my arrival, but you don't have to be so cold, right? In any case, I'm the next enforcer. In a way, I'm your successor. Shouldn't you be very enthusiastic about me?" Seeing the old man just look at him and then close his eyes without saying anything, Muronyu finally could not help but say, "Say it, what's the matter?" The enforcer opened his eyes and said helplessly. He did not believe that Muronyu was here to see him. This guy's character was not to visit a temple without a reason. Since he took the initiative to visit and was so enthusiastic, it must be nothing good. It's nothing big. I just want to ask you for a few hundred immortal weapons to play with. A few hundred immortal weapons to play with? The enforcer could not help but have the impulse to slap Muronyu to death. Do you think immortal weapons are like cabbages that can be found everywhere? Moreover, with the enforcer's strength and status, he did not even care about a few immortal weapons. Those that could catch his eye were all exquisite. What do you want so many immortal weapons for? The treasures in your hands are even better than immortal weapons. The enforcer said indifferently. This? Muronyu chuckled. Didn't I create Shenzhen? As the founder of Shenzhen, the first sacred master, I have to plan for Shenzhen, right? Actually, I want to strengthen Shenzhen. It's not easy to be the founder of a sect. What does you strengthening Shenzhen have to do with me? The enforcer asked. Muronyu could not help but jump up. He looked at the enforcer with an angry face. How does Shenzhen have nothing to do with you? I'm the next enforcer, your successor. Now that your successor has established a sect, shouldn't you do something for me? A few hundred immortal weapons are not much to you, right? You're too stingy. Kid, you're really like a scoundrel. The enforcer could not help but shake his head and smile bitterly. He knew that this was Muronyu's character, so he did not blame him. He just continued, "No, old man, you're too stingy. You don't even have a few hundred immortal weapons? And you're the enforcer. Since you're so strong, why don't you go to the immortal world and destroy a few sects for me and steal their immortal weapons? Anyway, immortals use immortal weapons. If you destroy a small sect, you'll probably get a lot of immortal weapons." As he spoke, Muronyu's blood began to boil. If it weren't for the fact that he wasn't strong enough, he would have already killed his way to the immortal world. Scram! The enforcer really wanted to slap Muronyu to death. What kind of idea did this kid come up with? Go to the immortal world and destroy a sect to steal their immortal weapons? Only this guy would have such a weird idea. But after thinking about it, it seemed like a good idea. But the enforcer could not do that, and there was no need. Muronyu rolled his eyes. Since that's the case, I won't disturb you anymore. As he spoke, Muronyu turned around and left in a clean manner. The enforcer's face darkened. This guy was too realistic. Before he came, he was so shameless. But after seeing that he did not have any immortal weapons, he turned and left without saying a word. This is a storage ring that I never got. Take it. The enforcer threw a storage ring to Muronyu and said, "Thank you, old man. I'll come and see you next time when I have the chance." Muronyu laughed. His body flashed and he disappeared. The enforcer shook his head and smiled bitterly. Chapter 338. The old man's collection is all top-notch. Looking at the pile of powerful immortal equipment in front of him, Muronyu's face was full of smiles. The enforcer had casually thrown a storage ring to Muronyu, and there were more than 200 immortal equipment in it. With Muronyu's current strength, he naturally could not tell the grade of these immortal equipment, but Hichu could. Hichu could tell at a glance that the worst of these immortal equipment was a 5th grade immortal equipment, and the highest grade was a 9th grade immortal equipment. One of the immortal swords and an ancient cauldron were 9th grade immortal equipment. When Muronyu knew the grade of these two immortal equipment, he decided to treat them as the most powerful immortal equipment of the Chaos Shenzhen. Such a powerful immortal equipment was probably unheard of in the cultivation world, right? It was definitely the most powerful immortal equipment of the cultivation world. Using these 200 immortal equipment to set up the immortal Juetian array, even a powerful immortal would not be able to break the array. Once the immortal Juetian array was set up, the Chaos Shangzhen would definitely be the sect with the strongest defense in the cultivation world. If I let the immortal Jueshian sword devour all these immortal swords, it should be able to repair it a little, right? Thinking of the damaged immortal Jueshian sword lying quietly in the Hichu Luoshu world, Murong felt that it was a pity. The immortal Jueshian sword was one of the 4 immortal swords, but it was severely damaged and needed to devour immortal equipment to repair it. Therefore, Murong had never used the immortal Jueshian sword after obtaining it. The immortal Jueshian sword was seriously damaged, so Murong did not dare to use it. Otherwise, if the immortal Jueshian sword broke, the loss would outweigh the gain. Murong had always wanted to repair the immortal Jueshian sword, but he did not have any immortal swords that could be devoured by the immortal Jueshian sword. Although the Enforcer gave him more than 200 immortal equipment, Murong decisively used these immortal Jueshian array to set up the immortal Jueshian array for the Chaos Shangzhen to protect the mountain. The primal Chaos Shangzhen was Murong foundation and was of utmost importance. There would be plenty of opportunities to repair the Celestial Ending Sword in the future. As for Chaos Shangzhen, Murong didn't spend too much time on it. With his strength, he believed that he would be able to ascend very soon. By then, he would no longer be able to continue guarding the primal Chaos Shangzhen. Therefore, before he ascended, Murong tried his best to increase Chaos Shangzhen's strength. Even if he ascended, he had to ensure that the Chaos Shangzhen was the strongest in the cultivation world and would continue to grow stronger. Therefore, Murong didn't hesitate to set up the immortal Jueshing formation for Chaos Shangzhen after obtaining these immortal weapons. At the same time, the news of the establishment of the Chaos Shangzhen had spread throughout the cultivation world. Immediately after, some of the small and medium-sized sects nearby came to congratulate him. The sect that Murong established single-handedly, even though it had only been established for a few days, was definitely one of the top 10 sects in the cultivation world. As long as Murong existed, the Chaos Shangzhen would be the strongest sect in the cultivation world. However, Murong didn't appear for these sects, even if they were first-rate sections. He only let Zhang Ao and the others welcome and receive them. This was because Murong was setting up the immortal Jueshing formation. A few days later, the Saintess of the Hidden Fairy Valley, Zhao Jiqing, represented the Hidden Fairy Valley to celebrate the establishment of the Chaos Shangzhen. At the same time, Yu Mengxing of the Mystic Moon sect also brought people to celebrate. Other than these 2 sects, the other 7 sects of the top 10 sects didn't send anyone to celebrate. Obviously, these 7 sects didn't have a good relationship with Murong. They were even enemies. They were constantly worried about whether Murong would destroy them, like he destroyed Zushenzong. Since they were enemies, they naturally wouldn't come to celebrate. Only the Hidden Fairy Valley and the Mystic Moon sect had a good relationship with Murong. After spending half a month, Murong finally set up the immortal Jueshing formation. Boom! Just as Murong successfully set up the immortal Jueshing formation, an earth-shattering sound came from the Chaos Shangzhen. In the next moment, an extremely terrifying pressure erupted and rushed into the sky. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, whether it was the disciples of the Chaos Shangzhen or the other disciples who came to celebrate, they were all shocked to see that in all directions of the Chaos Shangzhen, there were suddenly sword rays that contained shocking, killing intent. Trillions of sword rays shattered the sky and surrounded the entire Chaos Shangzhen. Waves of terrifying killing intent covered the sky and earth, and the killing intent was awe-inspiring. Feeling the terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth, everyone was shocked. One by one, they ran out with horrified expressions. Could it be that the enemy is here to kill the Chaos Shangzhen? The disciples of the Chaos Shangzhen, as well as the cultivators of the other sects, looked at all this with pale faces. The trillions of sword rays that surrounded the Chaos Shangzhen and enveloped the entire Shangzhen were truly terrifying. Even the cultivators in the transformation stage or higher were so scared that their faces turned pale. The aura contained in these sword rays was so terrifying that they couldn't summon up the slightest intention to resist. In an instant, many people thought that the Chaos Shenzhen had been attacked by other sects or immortals. They were all in a panic and didn't know what was going on. Everyone, don't panic. I'm Holy Master Morongyu. These sword rays aren't an attack from outside, but from our Shenzhen's protective formation, the Immortal Juggling Formation. With this formation, the Chaos Shenzhen is the sect with the strongest defense in the cultivation world. Even an ordinary immortal wouldn't be able to break through the Immortal Juggling Formation. Murongyu's voice sounded in the midst of everyone's panic. At the same time, the sword rays that had wreaked havoc in the sky gradually disappeared. In the end, the Chaos Shenzhen regained its clear skies. However, one could still vaguely see a sword ray flash in the air and around the Shenzhen, telling everyone that the Chaos Shenzhen was being protected by an immensely powerful formation. Seeing this, everyone's anxious hearts finally relaxed. At the same time, they didn't doubt Murongyu's words. Even immortals couldn't break through the Immortal Juggling Formation. They had also felt the terrifying aura, and this was just the aura that the Immortal Juggling Formation had unintentionally released. If the Immortal Juggling Formation was fully activated, it could even kill an immortal. However, what they didn't know was that this Immortal Jueshi Grand Formation used over 200 immortal artifacts above the 5th grade as the foundation and core of the formation. If an ordinary Heavenly Immortal Realm cultivator were to approach the activated Immortal Jueshi Grand Formation, then he would die without a doubt. Even an exalted immortal or golden immortal would be killed. However, they didn't know much about immortals. All they knew was that even immortals couldn't break through this formation. As one of the top 10 sects in the cultivation world, Zhushenzong had many spirit veins suppressed under the ground of the sect, causing the spiritual energy within the sect to be many times denser than the outside world. However, there was only one 9th grade spirit vein in the entire Zhushenzong. One could imagine how rare 9th grade spirit veins were. This spiritual energy is still too weak. Morongyu stood in the air, frowning slightly. Then, he made a grabbing motion in the air and pulled out a grade 9 spiritual vein from the He2 and the Book of Luo world. That's a 9th grade spirit vein. A first step immortal from the Hidden Fairy Valley couldn't help but exclaim when he saw the spirit vein emitting terrifying spiritual energy in Murongyu's hand. As one of the top experts in the Hidden Fairy Valley, he was fortunate enough to see a 9th grade spirit vein. Therefore, he immediately recognized the grade of the spirit vein in Murongyu's hand. The elder's exclamation wasn't loud, but it spread far and wide. In an instant, many cultivators looked at the spirit vein in Murongyu's hand in shock. They didn't know what Murongyu wanted to do. Is that a 9th grade spirit vein? I also have the chance to see a 9th grade spirit vein today. A disciple of the primal Chaos Shenzhen said excitedly. No one looked down on this excited disciple, because almost everyone present had never seen a 9th grade spirit vein before. In the air, Morongyu made a few hand seals. Roar. After an earth-shattering explosion, a dragon-like roar came from afar. Then, a dragon-like creature appeared in front of Murongyu like a long river. This was a 9th grade spirit vein as big as a river. After the spirit vein returned to its original form, it kept roaring. Rich spiritual energy emanated from the 9th grade spirit vein and covered the entire primal Chaos Shenzhen. Sensing the dense, mist-like spirit chi, many cultivators greedily began to cultivate. However, not long after, they stopped cultivating because Murongyu had already inserted the 9th grade spirit vein into the ground in the primal Chaos Shenzhen. Zhushenzong originally suppressed a 9th grade spirit vein, and now it's the second one. From now on, the primal Chaos Shenzhen is definitely the sect with the richest spiritual energy among all the sects. A first-step immortal from the Mystic Moon sect exclaimed with envy. Those who were not part of the primal Chaos Shenzhen were envious, but the disciples of the primal Chaos Shenzhen were extremely proud, because this was their sect, this was their home, and they would cultivate here in the future. Roar! While everyone was envious and jealous, another ninth-grade spirit vein appeared in the air. Is he going to suppress this spirit vein in the primal chaos, Shenzhen again? Under everyone's shocked gaze, Murong Yu suppressed this spirit vein in the primal chaos, Shenzhen again. At this point, the primal chaos Shenzhen had suppressed 3 ninth-grade spirit veins. The spiritual energy in the Shenzhen was definitely several times more than that of the other top 10 sections. However, Murong Yu's actions did not stop because of this. Under everyone's shocked and numb gazes, the ninth-grade spirit veins were continuously pulled over and suppressed under the primal chaos Shenzhen. 7, 8, 9. Murong Yu had already taken out 9 ninth-grade spirit veins and suppressed them in 9 directions of the primal chaos Shenzhen. Together with the original 9th-grade spirit vein, the primal chaos Shenzhen now had 10 ninth-grade spirit veins. 10 grade, 9 spirit veins, 9 more than the other sections. However, the spiritual energy was not just 9 times more, but countless times more. Under the effect of the 10 ninth-grade spirit veins, the spiritual energy in the primal chaos Shenzhen was at least 10 times more concentrated than the other sections. The spiritual energy is still not dense enough. Murong Dan's faint voice sounded. Everyone in the Shenzhen almost fainted. The difference was that the people in the Shenzhen were so shocked that they fainted, but the people in the Shenzhen were so happy that they fainted. Chapter 339. During the trip to the extreme celestial realm, Murong Yu had obtained 11 grade, 9 spiritual veins, and suppressed 9 of them. After the chaos Shenzhen, there were still 2 left. Jiqing, Mengqing. Murong Yu suddenly looked at the 2 girls and flipped his hand. The remaining 2 grade, 9 spiritual veins appeared in his hand. What is the Holy Lord doing? Seeing 2 more grade, 9 spiritual veins appear in Murong Yu's hand, the shocked crowd still had the same question in their hearts. Soon, Murong Yu's next action explained their doubts. With a wave of Murong Yu's hands, the 2 spiritual veins slowly flew out. Soon, the crowd realized that the 2 spiritual veins had flown to Zhao, Jiqing, and Yu Mengqing. The 2 girls were instantly shocked and looked at Murong Yu in disbelief. Take these 2 grade, 9 spiritual veins, Murong Yu said with a smile. Zhao, Jiqing nodded and directly took the spiritual veins. Then, she turned to look at Yu Mengqing, who was not far away. With her relationship with Murong Yu, it was normal for Murong Yu to give her a grade 9 spiritual vein. However, it was somewhat thought-provoking for Murong Yu to give a grade 9 spiritual vein to Yu Mengqing. Is this for me? Looking at the dragon-like grade 9 spiritual vein in front of her, Yu Mengqing asked Murong Yu softly in shock. It's a gift for you. Take it. Murong Yu said with a smile. Okay. Although Yu Mengqing was shocked, she accepted the grade 9 spiritual vein very straightforwardly. Since Murong Yu could take away the grade 9 spiritual vein, she naturally would not be polite to Murong Yu. Anyway, Murong Yu had plenty of spiritual veins. Everyone looked at Zhao, Jiqing, and Yu Mengqing with envy, especially the cultivators from other sections. They were so envious that they wished they could transform into the 2 girls. That was a 9th grade spirit vein. Even the top 10 sects only had 1 or 2 of such high-quality goods. Now, Murong Yu didn't even frown when he gave it away. While lamenting the 2 women's happiness, he also lamented Murong Yu's generosity. At the same time, many people had already memorized the faces of Zhao, Jiqing, and Yu Mengqing. Murong Yu actually gave him a 9th-rank spiritual pulse, which meant that their relationship was definitely not ordinary. In the future, this person must not be provoked. As for whether or not anyone had designs on the 2 girls, that was a must. That was a rank 9 spirit vein. Even the 10 great sects would covet it. Sensing the passionate gazes of the surrounding people, the 2 immortals from the hidden fairy valley and the mystic moon sect frowned. He believed that the news of the 2 women having 9th-rank spiritual veins would soon spread throughout the cultivation world. Once they left Chaos Shenzhen and set foot on the way back, they would probably be in grave danger. With their strength, they definitely wouldn't be able to protect the two women. We can only ask the experts from our sects to come over. The two immortals hurriedly instructed their disciples to send a message to their respective sections. Roar! While everyone was still in shock, a deafening roar came from the void. Everyone looked up and saw a dragon-shaped life form that was countless times larger than the rank 9 spirit vein. It emitted an even more terrifying aura and let out a dragon roar as it flew towards the depths of Chaos Shenzhen. At this moment, a massive amount of spirit chi gushed down like an ocean, shrouding the entire Primal Chaos Saint sect. A transformation stage cultivator took a deep breath and inhaled the vast amount of spiritual energy. In the next moment, his expression changed drastically. This is immortal spiritual energy. The transformation stage cultivator exclaimed. Transformation stage cultivators were all experts who had blasted open the immortal door. The immortal spiritual energy of the immortal world constantly flowed out from the immortal door that they had blasted open, acting on their bodies and transforming them. To them, ordinary spiritual energy couldn't transform their bodies and could only help them recover their strength. Only immortal spiritual energy could transform their bodies and make them closer to an immortal body. Transformation stage cultivators who were constantly absorbing immortal spiritual energy were naturally very familiar with immortal spiritual energy. Therefore, they immediately realized that the spiritual energy emitted by the terrifying spirit vein was immortal spiritual energy. It really is immortal spiritual energy. This is immortal spiritual energy. Could it be that this is the legendary immortal vein? Everyone stared blankly at the spirit vein that had been suppressed by Murongyu in the depths of Chaos Shenzhen. Most of the transformation stage cultivators and above had already sat down cross-legged and started to absorb the immortal spiritual energy to cultivate. To them, the more immortal spiritual energy they absorbed, the more their bodies would be transformed into immortal bodies, giving them hope of ascension. 10 level 9 spirit veins and 1 immortal vein are the foundation of Chaos Shenzhen in the cultivation world. As long as the disciples of Chaos Shenzhen cultivate in Shenzhen, their cultivation speed will be 100 times faster than outside. I hope that all the disciples of Shenzhen will work hard in their cultivation and strive to ascend to the immortal world as soon as possible. Our stage is not the cultivation world, but the immortal world. Chaos Shenzhen is not only the #1 sect in the cultivation world, but also the #1 sect in the immortal world. All of this requires the combined efforts of you, me, and all the disciples of Shenzhen. Together, we will create glory that belongs to us. Murongyu's voice was neither passionate nor emotional, but at this moment, all the disciples of Chaos Shenzhen were moved. This was their holy lord, the holy lord of Chaos Shenzhen, their holy lord. First, he set up an immortal Juetian formation in Shenzhen that even immortals could not break through. Then he sealed the 9 spirit veins in Shenzhen, and finally sealed the immortal vein in the sect. All of this, Murongyu was not for himself, but for the disciples of Shenzhen. Murongyu had poured too much effort into Shenzhen. For Shenzhen, Murongyu had spared no effort to improve Shenzhen's cultivation environment. Was this the legendary Great Devil? Was he that selfish guy from the legends? At this moment, all the disciples of Shenzhen were moved. Perhaps some of them had chosen to stay and join Chaos Shenzhen, but they were reluctant and could not completely put themselves in the role of Shenzhen's disciples. However, from now on, they had truly regarded Shenzhen's disciples. Shenzhen was their home, their sect. They would live and die together with the sage sect, living and dying together. This was because this was their sect. Looking at the excited glory sect disciples, the other cultivators from the other sects could not help but feel envious. Many of them even had the impulse to leave their sects and join Shenzhen. After all, the spirit energy in Shenzhen was 100 times denser than the spirit energy in the 10 great sections. At this moment, The immortal spirit energy overflowing from the immortal veins and the 9 spirit veins shrouded the entire Shenzhen like a faint mist. The spirit energy had turned into a mist. Such dense spirit energy was simply too terrifying. Cultivating here would definitely be twice as fast with half the effort. Most importantly, there were immortal veins here. Although one could not directly cultivate in the immortal veins, the immortal spirit energy overflowing from the immortal veins could allow the body of an expert in the transformation stage or above to transform into an immortal body faster. Cultivating in Shenzhen, the chances of becoming an immortal were several times higher than in other sects. One could imagine that cultivating in such a dense spirit energy environment, it would not take long for Chaos Shenzhen to produce a large number of experts. It would not take long for the top experts to catch up with the other sects, and even surpass them would only be a matter of time. With the immortal veins, the chances of our Shenzhen ascending are several times higher than the other sections. However, due to the awkward situation of no one ascending in the cultivation world in the past hundreds of thousands of years, I have decided to open a secret realm in the depths of Shenzhen. I will suppress the last immortal veins in the secret realm. In the future, any disciple of Shenzhen who has made a great contribution to the sect or is heavily nurtured by the sect will have the opportunity to enter the secret realm and cultivate directly in the immortal veins. Immortal veins were something that even immortals would scramble for. It was very useful to immortals and even more so to cultivators. I hope that the disciples of Shenzhen will work hard. Murong Yu's voice slowly sounded, and once again, everyone was shocked, excited, and even fainted. Damn, is Shenzhen still accepting disciples? I have decided to withdraw from my sect and join your Shenzhen. Finally, a disciple of another sect gritted his teeth and looked at the disciple of Shenzhen next to him. Sorry, the Holy Master has instructed that our Shenzhen will only accept those rogue cultivators without a sect or directly accept disciples from the secular world. A disciple of Shenzhen calmly said, Why? Why are you all Shenzhen's disciples, and I am not? This is too demoralizing. Many disciples of other sects were envious and jealous. However, Shenzhen did not accept them at all. There were 2 immortal veins in Shenzhen, 10 ninth grade spirit veins, and the fact that the spirit chi in Shenzhen was so dense that it was like a thick fog that could not disperse spread throughout the cultivation world in just one day. For a time, the entire cultivation world was boiling. While everyone was sighing at Murong Yu's wealth, they were also very envious. Even a pig would be able to cultivate into a powerhouse if they were to cultivate under such rich spiritual energy, let alone cultivators with decent aptitudes like them. Of course, there is no lack of people who had ideas about Chaos Shenzhen, but they only dared to think about it. Not to mention the legendary Jueshin Great Formation. Even if Murong Yu was there alone, they would not dare to set foot in Chaos Shenzhen. For a time, many rogue cultivators even flocked to Chaos Shenzhen, wanting to join Shenzhen and become their sect. However, when they arrived at Shenzhen, they were told that Shenzhen was not accepting disciples for the time being. If they accepted disciples, it would be open to the whole cultivation world. At this time, when they knew that the spirit chi in Shenzhen was like a thick fog that could not disperse, and there were even immortal veins, those disciples who did not want to join Shenzhen were regretful and slapped their own mouths. Damn it, why did I leave Shenzhen? When these people returned to Shenzhen and asked to join Shenzhen, they were also told, Chaos Shenzhen does not want any of the former disciples of Zushenzong, including their relatives and friends. Shenzhen's actions made these people even more regretful. Wu Feng and the others finally understood what Murong Yu meant when he said that they would regret it after leaving. Chapter 340. While the world was envious and the Zushenzong disciples who were unwilling to join Shenzhen were filled with regret, Murong Yu gathered Zhang Ao, Wu Feng, Yang Man, Sima Ruyu, and the others in the temple for the first meeting since the establishment of Shenzhen. Shenzhen has just been established, and there are many things waiting to be done. This is not my Shenzhen, but everyone's Shenzhen. I hope that in the future, everyone will work hard to bring Shenzhen to greater heights. Muronyu sat on the seat of the Holy Master and looked at everyone. We will work hard to bring Shenzhen to greater heights and make it the largest sect in the cultivation world. Everyone said in unison. Muronyu nodded and continued. Only when a sect is united can it grow stronger and stronger. In the cultivation world, there's not a single sect that doesn't form cliques and factions. Within the sect, there's no one that doesn't fight against each other. The sect is like a pile of loose sand, constantly fighting against each other. Our Shenzhen must put an end to this situation. We encourage competition between disciples of the sect, but we absolutely prohibit unfair competition. For the development of Shenzhen, after thinking for a long time, I have decided to establish 8 great protectors, 8 great elders, and a penal institution. Everyone was surprised. They didn't know what duties these protectors and elders would have in the penal institution. But soon, under Murongyu's explanation, everyone finally understood the difference between protectors and elders. Protectors, as the name suggests, were the protectors of a sect. In other words, their main purpose was to protect the sect and fight against the other sections. As long as there were outsiders who were unfavorable to Shenzhen, the protectors would be dispatched to eliminate all threats and protect the sect. Because of their duties, the 8 great protectors' strength requirements were extremely high. They must be the strongest in Shenzhen to be able to hold the position. Otherwise, if the protectors were not strong enough, how could they protect Shenzhen? Deal with outsiders? If the protectors were not strong enough, they would be killed as soon as they went out. Wouldn't that be a joke? However, because Shenzhen had just been established, there was no one in Shenzhen who could hold the position of protector. After all, although Zhang Ao and the others were strong now, they were only in the transformation stage. Their strength was not enough to hold the position of protector. Anyway, now that Muronyu was guarding Shenzhen, there was no need for protectors in a hurry. Once Shenzhen developed, the position of the 8 great protectors would naturally not be empty. Opposite the 8 great protectors were the 8 elders. The 8th patriarch was in charge of the internal affairs. He was the leader of the ordinary patriarchs in the sect, and he was responsible for everything in the sect. In addition to the 8 great elders, there were also ordinary outer sect elders and inner sect elders, as well as those powerful elders who were powerful with great elders with great elders. The elders were the experts who didn't manage the sect's secluded experts. Every sect never lacked grand elders. Young man, Pei Peiyu, Sima Ruyu, the 3 of you will be the 8 great elders for now. The remaining 5 can be selected later. Muronyu looked at the 3 girls and said slowly. The 3 girls had always been leaders in the chaos. Their aptitude was not bad, and they were very capable. This made Muronyu feel at ease. Therefore, Muronyu let the 3 of them be one of the 8 great elders of Shenzhen. Young man and the other 2 were very excited. At the same time, they thanked Muronyu and said that they would do everything they could to develop Shenzhen. The punishment institution is a special place in Shenzhen that is responsible for punishment. Zhang Ao, Wu Feng. Muronyu looked at Zhang Ao and Wu Feng and suddenly shouted, "Here!" Zhang Ao and Wu Feng stepped forward. Zhang Ao, you will be the great elder of the punishment institution. You will be in charge of the punishment institution. Wu Feng, you will be the elder of the punishment institution. You will assist Zhang Ao. Moreover, you can choose some subordinates from the Chaos members to be the disciples of the punishment institution. At the same time, young man, you can also choose some members from the Chaos members to be the elders of the sect and other positions. As for the Chaos members, I will arrange for them to be in Shenzhen. They will be under the direct command of the Holy Lord. Yes, young man, Zhang Ao and the others were overjoyed. In the Chaos, each of them had a squad with more than 20,000 subordinates. These people were not only powerful, but most importantly, they were absolutely loyal to Muronyu. As long as these people were arranged to be in various positions in Shenzhen, there was no need to worry about the disciples of Zushenzong having any disloyalty. Most importantly, these people would never betray Murong Yu or Shenzhen. When Shenzhen was first established, they could help Murong Yu manage Shenzhen and strengthen Shenzhen. The punishment institution already had the elders and protectors. Now, they were only missing a chief disciple, holy son and holy daughter. However, Shenzhen had just been established, and there was no chief disciple. The chief disciple was the strongest disciple in the sect and a candidate for the Holy Lord. Li Ling. Murong Yu looked at the drowsy Li Ling and called out. Li Ling was startled and woke up instantly. He glanced at Murong Yu and was about to speak, but was interrupted by Murong Yu. Shenzhen's first holy son will be Li Ling. At the same time, Li Ling will be the next Holy Lord successor. As for the chief disciple and holy daughter, they are temporarily vacant. No way, I'm a holy son? And the next Holy Lord successor? Uncle, you're joking too much. Li Ling jumped up, no longer sleepy. He looked at Murong Yu in shock and waved his hands. The Holy Son and the successor of the Holy Lord sounded very attractive. If it were an ordinary person, they would be overjoyed. However, when he thought of the chief disciples and holy sons who died in Murong Yu's hands, Li Ling could not help but shudder. Why? You're not willing? Murong Yu looked at Li Ling and his face darkened. The rest of the people in the hall also looked at Li Ling with a strange expression. If it were an ordinary person, they would want to be the Holy Son. However, this Li Ling was not willing. This was really unusual. Seeing that everyone's eyes were on him, Li Ling could not help but feel embarrassed. He said, Uncle, you know that many holy sons and chief disciples have died in your hands. If I become the Holy Son, will I be hunted down by other experts? Most importantly, the Holy Son represents Shenzhen. If I become Shenzhen's disciple and get defeated, then Shenzhen's face will be tarnished. This pressure is too great. It's better not to do it. Everyone smiled. What Li Ling said seemed to make sense. However, Murong Yu looked at Li Ling with a sullen face. You have to be the successor of the Holy Lord, even if you don't want to. Li Ling's face turned bitter. He really didn't want to be the saint. When he thought of being the saint, he would be targeted and hunted down by countless people once he left the cultivation world. His face turned even more bitter. Of course, it's fine if you don't want to be. Unless you ascend to the immortal world, Shenzhen will still be in your hands after I ascend to the immortal world. Uncle, you said it yourself. As long as I ascend, you can't force me to be the Holy Son or the Holy Lord. Murong Yu nodded. Uncle, you can't go back on your words. Li Ling looked at Murong Yu and said through gritted teeth, in order to not be the Holy Son or the Holy Lord, I'll give it my all. I'll cultivate harder in the future and strive to ascend to the immortal world as soon as possible. Seeing Li Ling gnashing his teeth, people who did not know the situation might think that Li Ling wanted to be the Holy Son. However, Murong Yu rejected him without hesitation. However, who would have thought that he was gnashing his teeth because he did not want to be the Holy Son or the Holy Lord? I only heard that other people cultivate hard to be the Holy Son. You cultivate hard because you don't want to be the Holy Son. Murong Yu was helpless and continued, I mean what I say. As long as you ascend to the immortal world, I won't let you be the Holy Son. However, if you still can't ascend by the time I ascend, then the position of the Holy Lord will still be yours. Don't worry, I'll cultivate harder and strive to ascend to the immortal world before you do, Li Ling said through gritted teeth. Then Murong Yu and the others discussed how to develop Shenzhen. A few days later, some of the rules of Shenzhen, the Holy Son, the 8 great guardians, the 8 great elders, and the punishment institution were announced by the elders. Shenzhen's disciples naturally had no objections to these rules. Moreover, Shenzhen did not have many rules. It was similar to Zushenzong's previous rules, with only a slight difference. However, the attack on the elixirs of the disciples had doubled. This made the disciples of the sage sect even happier, and they were even more unswerving in their loyalty. After all, Shenzhen was like a thick fog. It was extremely dense, and it was impossible to cultivate any elixirs here. However, Shenzhen's disciples could not cultivate in Shenzhen for their entire lives. They needed to go out and experience the world and complete some sect missions. After all, Shenzhen could not raise them for free. Moreover, if they wanted to get better training, they needed to contribute to the sect. Moreover, disciples who contributed a lot could cultivate in the immortal meridian in the secret realm. Just this alone had attracted the envy of countless disciples. They were all thinking of ways to increase their contribution to the sect. At the same time, Shenzhen began to recruit disciples from the entire cultivation world. In recruiting disciples, aptitude is not important. What's important is their character. As long as they have a good character and are loyal enough, even if they are as stupid as pigs, Shenzhen can make them strong. This was Murong Yu's words. After these words spread in the cultivation world, it attracted even more rogue cultivators to Shenzhen, wanting to join Shenzhen. However, most of the disciples recruited by Shenzhen were from the secular world. Although rogue cultivators were recruited, the conditions were very harsh, and the number was very small. Shenzhen recruits a certain number of disciples every year. It's better to have nothing than to have something substandard. Those with bad character, no matter how heaven-defying their aptitude is, must not be accepted. Chaos Shenzhen was a sect established by Murong Yu. He did not want selfish people like Zhuang Ningguang to appear in Shenzhen after he ascended. The reason why Zhushenzong was destroyed was entirely because of such people. They must have a good character and must be loyal to the sect. These were the only two conditions for Shenzhen to recruit disciples. It was because of these two conditions that Chaos Shenzhen could stand tall in the future and become stronger and stronger. Chapter 341. Time flowed like water, and in the blink of an eye, Shenzhen had been established for a year. After a full year, Shenzhen was finally on the right track under the busy efforts of Murong Yu and the rest. Due to the fact that it had just been established, there were still vacancies in the positions of elders and protectors. However, with the hard work of Zhang Ao, Young Man, and the rest, the original 100,000 members of Chaos joined the sect, allowing Chaos Shenzhen to prosper day by day. Of course, only a small portion of the 100,000 members of Chaos held the position of elders and such in Shenzhen. Most of the remaining experts formed a special department to cultivate in Shenzhen. When Chaos was first established, Murong Yu's original intention was to use Chaos to help him. However, Murong Yu later realized that the gap between his growth speed and that of Chaos members was getting bigger and bigger. Even with the time acceleration of Hichu Luo Shu, the growth speed of Chaos members was far inferior to his. Murong Yu's enemies were mostly stronger or of the same level as him. Facing these enemies, even if all 100,000 members of Chaos were to attack, they would not be a match for them and would only increase the casualties. Therefore, Murong Yu had very few opportunities to use Chaos members. Later on, Murong Yu even had the idea of establishing a sect. Finally, after eliminating Zhushenzong's experts, he directly occupied Zhushenzong's sect, took in some of Zhushenzong's disciples, and established Shenzhen. The original Chaos members were secretly nurtured by Murong Yu as a special force of Shenzhen. They were the most mysterious and powerful force of Shenzhen. Moreover, because some of the Chaos members had already joined Shenzhen, they became Shenzhen's elders and protectors. In principle, these people were no longer considered Chaos members. Therefore, when Shenzhen recruited disciples from all over the cultivation world, Murong Yu purposely added a lot of new blood into the Chaos. Moreover, because Zhang Ao, Wu Feng, and the others weren't around this time, the 100,000 members of Chaos City were all women. It was a 100% female army. Shenzhen is already on the right track. Under the joint efforts of Young Man, Zhang Ao, and the others, they're gradually becoming stronger. However, the lack of peak experts had always been Shenzhen's weakness. Without a large number of peak-level experts, once he ascends, Shenzhen will probably be suppressed even with the Juexian Grand Formation. Sun might even kill their way to Shenzhen. Murong Yu muttered to himself as his eyes flickered. killing Shenzhen was very likely to happen. After all, Moronyu had made too many enemies. Besides, Shenzhen had not only 10 ninth-grade spirit meridians, but also 2 immortal meridians. Moronyu had found these 2 immortal meridians in Suda's ring after killing him. The Black Civ sect had probably given them to Suda and the others when they descended to the mortal world. Otherwise, given Suda's Empyrean immortal level, he wouldn't have possessed immortal meridians. It's time to think of a way to raise the strength of Shenzhen's peak experts. Immortal Ascension Pills and the Bada Consortium. Morongyu's eyes flashed. Transformation stage cultivators could use the immortal chi in their immortal meridians to speed up the transformation of their immortal bodies. However, Morongyu only had 2 first-grade immortal meridians. Although he could raise some first-step immortals, or even half-step immortals, there was a high chance that his immortal meridians would be completely exhausted. This was something Morongyu didn't want to see happen. Currently, he'd suppressed the 2 immortal meridians in Shenzhen. Although he didn't see any immediate effects, he'd still be able to raise the immortal meridians. However, if Shenzhen continued to develop, it wouldn't be long before the benefits of the immortal meridians became apparent. When that time came, cultivators who'd enter the transformation stage would be able to transform their immortal bodies several times faster than cultivators from other sects. If this continued, Shenzhen would only grow stronger and stronger. A year had passed. Zhao Jiqing and Yu Mengqing had long since returned to their respective sections. Morongyu had sent them directly back to their sects through Hichu Luoshu. Otherwise, with their 9th-grade spirit meridians, the moment they left Shenzhen, they would have been attacked without end. Of course, Morongyu didn't want anything to happen to them. Moreover, Morongyu had already considered this when he'd given them the spirit meridians. Morongyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When the news that the spiritual chi in Shenzhen was spread out, except for a few of the original top 10 sects, many other sects came to celebrate. At first, Morongyu didn't care much. It didn't matter if they came. However, later, more and more people came to celebrate. Moreover, those who came before found excuses to stay. Especially later, many powerhouses above the transformation stage, and even half-step immortals stayed in the sections. These guys didn't come to celebrate. They wanted to use the spiritual chi and immortal spiritual chi in Shenzhen to cultivate. Shenzhen's people didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but they were very proud of it. Of course, Morongyu didn't say much about this. He gave everyone 3 months. If they didn't leave after 3 months, Shenzhen's disciples would appear and drive them away. Although these people were still unwilling to leave Shenzhen, they had no choice but to leave Shenzhen. Even now, a year had passed. There were still many cultivators from other sects cultivating in Shenzhen. Yu Jia, Duamuqing, Mulanchun, Jiashui. Let's go to the Cloudwater Room. These days, Morongyu had been following the 4 women. These 4 women were the new leaders of the Chaos 4 battle team. They were directly promoted by Morongyu from the original Chaos 4 battle team. However, the 4 women had been cultivating in Hichu Luoshu. Although their abilities were very strong, they still had too little experience in dealing with the world. Therefore, these days, Morongyu had been bringing them along with him to increase their experience in dealing with the world. Along the way, Morongyu's group of 5 didn't use Hichu Luoshu to teleport directly to the Cloudwater Room, one of the 5 major cities in the cultivation world. Instead, they flew there slowly. After all, one of his goals was to go to the headquarters of the Bada Chamber of Commerce. At the same time, he also had another goal to train the 4 women. However, what made Morongyu depressed was that no one dared to court death along the way. What a joke. Who didn't know about Morongyu now? He killed an immortal and established the Chaos Shenzhen single-handedly. Who would dare to find trouble with them? They arrived at the Cloudwater Room safely. Morongyu was depressed. He wasted a lot of time. He might as well have teleported here directly. The Bada Chamber of Commerce, the number 1 chamber of commerce in the cultivation world, had extremely strong strength. The headquarters of the Bada Chamber of Commerce was located in the Cloudwater Room. At this time, Murong directly came to the front of the Bada Chamber of Commerce's headquarters and swaggered in. Halt! Otherwise, we will kill without mercy. Before Murong could get close to the door, he was stopped by a few guards of the Bada Chamber of Commerce. Each of them stared at Murong's group of 5 with murderous intent, but they didn't allow them to enter. After all, this was the headquarters of the Bada Chamber of Commerce, and not a Chamber of Commerce. The Bada Chamber of Commerce had a Chamber of Commerce in the Cloud Water Room. That was where they bought and sold their goods. Murong frowned slightly. Just as he was about to speak, Duan took a step forward and unleashed a huge aura of the transformation stage. He directly suppressed them. You're courting death. Are you blind? How dare you obstruct our holy lord? In the eyes of Duan and the others, only Murong was the supreme existence. The others definitely couldn't offend Murong in the slightest. Otherwise, they would be killed without mercy. The Bada Chamber of Commerce was indeed the top chamber of commerce in the cultivation world. Their guards were all in the out-of-body stage. However, in front of a transformation stage cultivator, an out-of-body stage cultivator was like an ant. Therefore, when Duan aura, which belonged to the transformation stage, came crashing down, the 2 guards were directly sent flying. This was also because Duan had restrained his aura. Otherwise, he could have killed the 2 guards with just his aura alone. Duan don't be rash. Come back. Murong shook his head. He admired Duan actions. However, they were here to do business today. It wouldn't be good if they went overboard and made things ugly. Although he was on good terms with the great elder of the Bada Chamber of Commerce, if he went overboard, it would only embarrass both sides. Yes, Holy Lord. Duan returned to Murong's side. Murong nodded. He admired the 4 women. In fact, Murong had promoted them to be the new leaders of the Chaos world precisely because they had similar personalities to him. Of course, they didn't have much experience in dealing with the world yet. There were some things that they couldn't handle well. However, he believed that they would grow up soon. Who dares to cause trouble in the Bada Chamber of Commerce? At this moment, a vast aura erupted from within the Bada Chamber of Commerce. It directly crushed Murong and the others. One step immortal? Murong smiled. He thought that the Bada Chamber of Commerce was indeed powerful. He had only touched 2 of their guards, and their one-step immortal had already made his move. If Qi Yang and the others knew what Murong was thinking, they would probably kill Murong immediately. This was the headquarters of the Bada Chamber of Commerce. He wanted to force his way into their headquarters. If their experts didn't come out, wouldn't it mean that the Bada Chamber of Commerce was afraid of him? Moreover, no matter who barged into their headquarters, their experts wouldn't be indifferent. If someone dared to barge into the Shenzhen and bully the disciples of the Shenzhen, Murong would have killed him with a palm strike. The aura of a one-step immortal was much stronger than that of Duan and the others. Moreover, this aura was mainly targeted at Murong and the other 4. Immediately, the 4 women felt that they were like a lone boat in a stormy sea under the crushing pressure of this huge pressure and could be torn apart at any time. Chaos, Shenzhen Holy Lord. Murong greets great Elder Qi Yang. Murong's voice wasn't loud, but it spread out slowly. The moment Murong spoke, Duan and the other 3 women felt the pressure on them disappear. Murong didn't make a move. He didn't do anything. He just spoke and broke the pressure of the other party's aura. The Holy Lord is indeed the strongest. The 4 women looked at each other. They admired Murong even more. Chapter 342. So it's Holy Lord Shenzhen. A faint voice sounded and a figure appeared out of thin air in front of the door of the Ada Chamber of Commerce. The old man was none other than the one-step immortal who had just released a powerful aura. After knowing that it was Murong, the old man naturally restrained his aura. At the same time, the experts in the Ada Chamber of Commerce who were about to attack also stopped. Greetings, Holy Lord. Grand Elder is in seclusion. Please follow me. After the old man came out, he cupped his fist towards Murong and invited Murong in. Murong nodded and didn't say anything else as he followed the old man inside. With Murong Yu's current strength and status, it was only right for these elders to treat him as such. Murong Yu accepted their greetings with a clear conscience. So it's Holy Lord. How have you been? After following the old man into the headquarters of the Ada Chamber of Commerce, they walked around for a while and finally arrived at a courtyard. When Murong Yu and the others arrived, they saw Grand Elder Qi Yang walking out of the courtyard. Senior, please excuse me. Murong Yu walked over. He was very respectful towards Qi Yang, who had helped him in the past. After all, Qi Yang had given him an 8 darling token. It was because of the 8 darling token that Murong Yu was able to annihilate a big family when he wasn't strong enough. I heard that Grand Elder is in seclusion. Can you make the final step? After Qi Yang entered the hall and sat down, Murong Yu asked with a smile. When Murong Yu first met Grand Elder Qi Yang, he thought that Grand Elder Qi Yang was only in the transformation stage. But now, it seemed that Grand Elder Qi Yang had already reached the half-step immortal realm. He was so strong that he could be considered a top expert in the cultivation world. Grand Elder Qi Yang chuckled and said, "How can the final step be so easy? Maybe I won't be able to ascend in this lifetime." You, on the other hand, actually killed an immortal and built the Chaos Shenzhen single-handedly. I already overestimated you back then, but now I realize that I still underestimated you. At that time, Great Elder Qi Yang only felt that Murong Yu's potential was limitless and that he would have great achievements in the future. So, he wanted to befriend him. However, he didn't expect that Murong Yu's achievements would be so great. Burning down the immortal gate, killing immortals, and establishing the primal chaos Shenzhen. All of this happened to a person who had only cultivated for 20 years. It was truly shocking. At the same time, Great Elder Qi Yang was also happy that he had met Murong Yu. Great Elder is only one step away. As long as you cast your immortal body, you will naturally be able to ascend. Why not try the Immortal Ascension Pill? Qi Yang smiled helplessly. The Immortal Ascension Pill has long been extinct in the cultivation world. Luckily, one appeared in the past and was obtained by Zushenzong. The most important thing is that although it can increase the speed of transformation, 1 or 2 of them are useless. This was why Qi Yang didn't bid for the Immortal Ascension Pill at the World Auction. One Immortal Ascension Pill wouldn't be of much use to him. Of course, if he had a large amount of them, they would be of great use. However, it was rare for one to appear in the cultivation world. Where else could there be more? Are the Immortal Ascension Pills really extinct in the cultivation world? Murong Yu frowned. If this was the case, then he would have to think of another way to increase the strength of Shenzhen's disciples. What? You need the Immortal Ascension Pill? Qi Yang looked strangely at Murong Yu. You've only cultivated for 20 years. With your cultivation speed, ascension shouldn't be a problem. The Immortal Ascension Pill shouldn't be of much use to you. Qi Yang thought that Murong Yu needed the Immortal Ascension stage to increase the speed of transformation. The Immortal Ascension Pill is useless to me. I don't need it at all. I need it for other purposes. Murong Yu didn't deliberately hide it. However, he didn't want others to know that the Yin-Yang Cauldron could refine large amounts of pills. It was too shocking. If this spread, even the experts of the immortal world and the heaven realm would come down to snatch it. Qi Yang's face was filled with astonishment. He had expected that Murong Yu didn't need the Immortal Ascension Pill. However, Murong Yu said that the Immortal Ascension Pill was useless to him. Could it be that he already had an immortal body? Seeing the shock in Qi Yang's eyes, Murong Yu shook his head. I don't have an immortal body. I'm still immortal. Even if he didn't have an immortal body now, he wasn't far from it. After all, Murong Yu had burned down the 100-mile-wide and 10,000-mile-tall immortal gate. The immortal spirit chi flowing out of such a huge immortal gate was definitely more terrifying than an ocean. Under the tempering of such immortal spirit chi, it wouldn't take long for Murong Yu's body to completely transform into an immortal body. However, Qi Yang didn't know that the immortal spirit chi had little effect on Murong Yu. After all, Murong Yu's chaotic celestial body physique was an existence that surpassed an immortal body. Grand Elder, do you know where the Immortal Ascension Pill is in the cultivation world? I'm here for the Immortal Ascension Pill. After exchanging pleasantries with the Grand Elder, Muronyu finally got to the point. Qiang pondered. Even though the Bada Trade Union was the #1 trade union in the cultivation world, they didn't have any Immortal Ascension Pills. To be honest, the Immortal Ascension Pill was of little value to cultivators. Back then, Zhuang Ningguang had used 1 trillion essence recovery pills to bid for the Immortal Ascension Pill. 1 trillion essence recovery pills was a bit expensive to bid for an Immortal Ascension Pill that didn't have much effect on first step or half-step immortals. After all, there was only 1 pill and it didn't have much effect. It's said that the Immortal Ascension Pill isn't something that cultivators like us can refine. Part of the ingredients required are spirit herbs from the immortal world. Therefore, I think the Immortal Ascension Pill must have been passed down from the immortal world. However, the Origin Void sect obtained an Immortal Ascension Pill a long time ago. It's said that the Origin Void sect has kept it as a treasure. They want to give it to a powerhouse who's only 1 step away from ascension. When the time comes, that half-step immortal will be able to use the Immortal Ascension Pill to transform his body into an immortal body and ascend. The Origin Void sect? Murongyu's eyes flashed. If that's the case, I'll have to pay a visit to the Origin Void sect. However, I hope they didn't ruin the Immortal Ascension Pill. Grand Elder, I'm in urgent need of the Immortal Ascension Pill, so I need to pay a visit to the Origin Void sect. If you're free, you can visit Shenzhen. There's an immortal meridian sealed in Shenzhen. Although it won't do you much good, it'll still be of some use to you. After chatting for a while, Muronyu stood up and bid farewell. Qiang laughed and said, even if you didn't mention it, I'd still go to Shenzhen with a thick skin. After all, who doesn't want to ascend? Ascending and becoming an immortal was the ultimate goal of all cultivators. They wanted to ascend to the immortal world for their entire lives. This was especially true for half-step immortals. Their desire to become an immortal was even more intense. After all, no one wanted to see their lifespan run out and die when they were only half a step away from the immortal world. Not long after, Muronyu bid farewell to Qiyang and left the Cloudwater hut with Duan Muqing and the other 3 women. They flew toward the Origin Void sect. After Muronyu left, Qiang left some instructions before leaving the Cloudwater hut. He actually went to Shenzhen. Naturally, Muronyu was extremely welcoming of this. After all, he didn't make much of a difference. Most importantly, Qiang was also an half-step immortal. With him in charge of Shenzhen, Muronyu felt more at ease. Qiang was the Grand Elder of the Bada Chamber of Commerce. The Bada Chamber of Commerce's strength was definitely not inferior to the original 10 great sections. Whoever dared to touch Qiang would be offending the Bada Chamber of Commerce. Holy Lord, are we going to snatch the Immortal Ascension Pill directly? Or are we going to destroy the Origin Void sect first? Yu Jia suddenly asked. At the same time, the other 3 women also looked eager to give it a try. Muronyu staggered and almost fell from the void. Snatch. Destroy other people's sects. Remember, we're Shenzhen's people. Don't try to snatch other people's things and destroy their sections. It's wrong to do so. We need to reason with them. Do you understand? Muronyu lectured with a conscientious look on his face. The 4 women nodded repeatedly, looking as if they had been taught a lesson. However, they were secretly cursing. The Holy Lord is too hypocritical. Burning, killing, robbing, and destroying sects have always been his strength. And it's all done openly. Holy Lord, are you changing your way of doing things? If you try to reason with them, they might not listen. Jia Shui was straightforward and asked directly. I've always been a good person. I've never snatched other people's things or destroyed their sections. You've all been misled by the legends. Muronyu said righteously. The 4 women curled their lips. They didn't believe Murongyu's nonsense. Muronyu was a little embarrassed and continued. Of course, we're using peaceful means before resorting to force. If they listen to us, then we'll let it go. If they don't listen, then we'll beat them until they listen. If they can't, then we'll destroy them all. Remember, we must get what Shenzhen wants. Holy Lord, you're really domineering. Mu Lanshan's beautiful eyes sparkled as she said with a smile. I'm domineering? I've always been called a gentle little gentleman and a gentle little lover. The four women pretended to vomit and rolled their eyes at Murong Yu. Duanmu Qing said disdainfully, Holy Lord, I seem to remember that you've always been single. You don't even have a woman. Where did this gentle little gentleman and gentle little lover come from? You're just trying to make us despise you. Great. Murong Yu was dealt a blow. Seeing that Murong Yu was dealt a blow, the four women laughed coquettishly. In the midst of the commotion, they had already arrived outside Yuan Su's sect. Holy Lord, are we going to reason with him? Duanmu Qing asked. Of course. However, I've never been on good terms with Yuan Su's sect. Before we reason with them, let's destroy their sect. Murong Yu's eyes flashed coldly. The four women rolled their eyes. This was reasoning with them. Chapter 343. The four girls rolled their eyes, but Duanmu Qing still took a few steps forward and slapped down with a big hand in the air. The raging power poured down in an instant. The majestic and magnificent gate of the Origin Void sect was smashed to smithereens by the terrifying power. On the other hand, the two Yuanshu sect disciples who were guarding the mountain gate were directly sent flying as they spat out blood. However, Duanmu Qing did not intend to kill them. He merely sent them flying. Even so, the two of them suffered an unexpected calamity and were severely injured. Murong Yu looked at Duanmu Qing with an admiring gaze. Murong Yu admired Duanmu Qing and the other three girls, but he especially admired Duanmu Qing because this woman was more violent than the other three. Her personality was more similar to Murong Yu's. Looking at the ashes of the mountain gate, Murong Yu nodded with a smile and said, Let's go and reason with them. The four girls were very excited. They flew towards Yuan Su's sect with Murong Yu. At this time, Yuan Su's sect's experts were already aware of the destruction of the mountain gate. Suddenly, a series of incomparably huge divine senses swept over, accompanied by a powerful aura. Who dares to cause trouble at Yuan Su's sect? When these experts saw that the mountain gate had been reduced to ashes, they were all enraged. A sect's mountain gate was the face of the sect. Yuan Su's sect's mountain gate was destroyed. It was a slap in the face for Yuan Su's sect. How could they not be angry? In an instant, many figures appeared in the sky above Yuan Su's sect and flew towards Murong Yu's group. So many experts. Sacred Lord, are we still going to reason with them? Seeing the one-step immortals and half-step immortals, although the four girls were violent, they were still shocked. Moreover, the experts of Yuan Su's sect were all emitting powerful auras that swept towards the five of them. Although the four girls were strong, they were only in the transformation stage. They were far from being a match for these one-step immortals, let alone half-step immortals. Just the aura alone was enough to make them feel like they were about to be torn apart. Yes, of course, Murong Yu said coolly. At the same time, he released his aura to envelop the four women, isolating them from the stormy waves of aura outside. Murong Yu, it's you? What are you doing here? One of the experts recognized Murong Yu's identity and couldn't help but be shocked as he shouted angrily. It was actually Murong Yu. When they heard the elder's exclamation, the disciples near Yuan Su's sect were shocked. Then, a look of fear appeared on their faces. The fact that Murong Yu had single-handedly eliminated Zuxianzong had already spread throughout the world of cultivators. For such a ferocious person to come to Yuan Su's sect, it was definitely not a good thing. Moreover, the enmity between him and the Origin Void sect seemed to be quite deep. Could it be that he's here to eliminate Yuan Su's sect? Many disciples of Yuan Su's sect thought so and felt even more uneasy. Although Murong Yu eliminated Zuxianzong, he didn't kill Zuxianzong's ordinary disciples. He even merged some of the cultivators into the Chaos Shengzhen. Even if he really wants to eliminate Yuan Su's sect today, he shouldn't attack ordinary disciples like us, right? Some of the disciples thought so. It seemed that as long as Murong Yu wanted to eliminate Yuan Su's sect would be defeated without a doubt. If the experts of Yuan Su's sect knew what they were thinking, would they be angered to death? Knowing that it was Murong Yu who had arrived, as well as the fact that he had destroyed their sect without a word, the majority of the Yuanshu sect's experts ran out. The void was densely packed with one-step immortals and half-step immortals. The transformative stage and half-step immortals also surrounded Murong Yu's group in the distance. They all looked at Murong Yu's group with a serious expression and looked like they would attack at the slightest disagreement. "I'm here to borrow something from you," Murong Yu said flatly after glancing at the people around him. "Murong Yu, you destroyed our sect, and now you want to borrow something from us? What is the meaning of this?" Sun Pingshi, the sect master of Yuan Su's sect, stepped out and shouted at Murong Yu. "What? You have a problem with that? If you have a problem with that, you can go ahead and destroy Shangzhen's sect as well," Murong Yu sneered. Sun Pingshi was startled, and so were the other experts of Yuan Su's sect. What did Murong Yu mean by that? He actually asked others to destroy his own sect? But how could Shangzhen's sect be so easy to destroy? They'd be killed by Murong Yu before they could even make a move. Who would dare touch a single blade of grass or tree in Shangzhen? Not to mention Shangzhen's sect. Sun Pingshi's heart was filled with killing intent as he looked at Murong Yu. It was this person who'd killed his most beloved grandson, Sun Yuan. He wanted to kill Murong Yu back on Demon Mountain, but he'd missed the opportunity. Now that they'd met again, Murong Yu actually had the strength to kill an immortal. In terms of status, he was Shangzhen's holy lord, not one bit inferior to him. In fact, in some ways, Murong Yu's status was even higher than his. "What? You don't dare? You're welcome to destroy Shangzhen's sect as long as you're alive to do it." Murong Yu sneered, then looked coldly at Sun Pingshi. "Old man, your killing intent is very strong. Do you really want to kill me?" His voice was calm, but made Sun Pingshi's soul tremble. He was only a one-step immortal. With Murong Yu's current strength, killing him would be as easy as blowing off dust. "All right, I remember now. You once put a bounty on my head, right? Shouldn't we settle this debt?" As he spoke, Murong Yu took a step forward and indifferently looked at Sun Pingshi. Sun Pingshi jumped in fright and involuntarily took a step back. Then he came to his senses and his face flushed red. He was the sect master of a super sect, but he'd actually been scared off by Murong Yu. It was really embarrassing. This is the Origin Void sect, not the Primal Chaos Shangzhen. You can't do whatever you want here. An immortal stepped forward and looked at Murong Yu with killing intent. "Oh, I'm very presumptuous? You think I'm presumptuous?" Murong Yu turned to look at Duan Muqing and the other girls. "Holy Lord, you're trying to reason with them politely. How is that presumptuous? They're just lying through their teeth," Jia hurriedly said. Hearing that, the people from the Origin Void sect staggered and almost fell. First, Murong Yu had destroyed their sect. Now, he was being overbearing. How could this be called reasonable? How is that reasonable? "Yes, I'm trying to reason with you. If you don't listen, I'll burn the Origin Void sect down," Murong Yu said with a smile. However, in the eyes of the people from the Origin Void sect, his smile was infuriating. "Holy Lord Shangzhen, you better go back. Our Origin Void sect doesn't have what you want to borrow," said the immortal who'd spoken before. Murong Yu's face darkened. "I haven't even said what I want to borrow, and you already know that you don't have what I want. You're courting death. Do you know that? You're courting death. The Origin Void sect isn't Zushenzong. If Holy Lord Murong still wants to leave, don't blame us for asking you to leave," said one of the immortals coldly. "Very well, you're forcing my hand. Do you know that? Do you want to follow in Zushenzong's footsteps? Fine. Since you don't want to lend us what you want, we'll have to kill all of you and slowly search for it." As he spoke, Murong Yu's aura soared to the sky. An aura as powerful as an immortal's swept out in all directions from Murong Yu's body like a raging tide. Almost at the same time, the terrifying aura enveloped the entire Origin Void sect. The terrifying aura caused all the disciples of the Origin Void sect to lie prostrate on the ground, trembling in fear. Even the immortals of the Origin Void sect and the immortals were pushed back by the terrifying aura. Their expressions were grim as they unleashed their strongest power to resist Murong Yu's aura. Murong Yu had grown even stronger. Behind Murong Yu, Duan Muqing and the other three women couldn't help but feel incomparably shocked when they saw Murong Yu use his aura to suppress the entire Yuansu sect. Only now did they see how powerful Murong Yu was, and this wasn't even Murong Yu's full strength. Immediately, the four girls looked at Murong Yu with extraordinary splendor in their eyes. Their admiration for Murong Yu grew. The origin void sex, origin void sex, origin void sex, origin void sect all had ugly expressions. They'd long heard of Murong Yu's strength, but now it seemed that Murong Yu was even stronger. Only now did they believe that Murong Yu truly had the ability to annihilate the origin void sect. His aura alone was enough to suppress their entire sect. I'll ask again, are you going to lend it to me or not? Murong Yu's faint voice, which contained a terrifying killing intent, rang clearly in the ears of the origin void sect's disciples. The origin void sect's experts looked at each other. In the end, one of the origin void sect's half-step immortals asked, "What does holy Murong Yu want to borrow?" Murong Yu smiled. "Wouldn't it have been better if you'd asked this from the start? I tried to reason with you, but you wouldn't listen. You wanted me to use force. Actually, what I want isn't the same as before. I want to borrow your sex." Murong Yu deliberately paused at this point. He wanted to borrow their sect? Could a sect be borrowed? If Murong Yu really wanted to lend them the origin void sect, then the origin void sect would be removed from the cultivation world the moment it was lent out. That was simply impossible. The origin void sect's hearts sank. Just as they were about to explode with rage, Murong Yu continued, "The immortal ascension pill." Chapter 344. Just an immortal ascension pill? Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. An immortal ascension pill was indeed worthless to them, and there was only one of it. It didn't have much use. But what did Murong Yu want to do with it? Was he going to take it and ascend to the world of immortals? If that was the case, they'd definitely give it to him. After all, it was better for this great demon to ascend to the world of immortals as soon as possible, lest he wreaked havoc in the cultivation world. But Murong Yu had opened all of his doors. Did he really need the immortal ascension pill? But who cared if he needed it or not? It was just an immortal ascension pill and wasn't worth much. If he wanted it, they'd give it to him. Although this would be a great loss of face for the origin void sect. Who was Murong Yu? He was a super powerhouse who could kill even immortals, and he'd killed Zhushenzong on his own. Origin Void Sect and Zhushenzong had both been part of the top 10 sects of the cultivation world, and their strength was about the same. If Murong Yu could kill Zhushenzong, he could do the same to their Origin Void Sect as well. Although compromising like this would be a great loss of face for them. But losing face was much better than having their sect destroyed, wasn't it? Moreover, Murong Yu had opened all of his doors. It wouldn't be long before he ascended. Once he ascended, they'd naturally get back at Chaos Shenzhen for what Murong Yu owed them. The Primal Chaos Holy Sect was only a sect that had been established not too long ago. With Murong Yu holding the fort, they were naturally powerful. However, without Murong Yu, the Primal Chaos Holy Sect would only be a second-rate power. Thinking of this, the Origin Void Sect relaxed. We're just holding back for now. We'll get back at Chaos Shenzhen very soon. So Holy Murong Yu wants the Immortal Ascension Pill? Why didn't he say so earlier? Our Yuan Su sect happens to have an Immortal Ascension Pill. If you had told me earlier, we wouldn't have had a fight. Just you wait, I'll give you the Immortal Ascension Pill right now, one of the half-step celestials said with a fake smile. Then his figure flashed, and he disappeared. Murong Yu looked at the people from Yuan Su's sect with a smile. However, he sneered in his heart. How could he not know what these fellows were planning? As long as Murong Yu obtained the Immortal Ascension Pill, then even without the Primal Chaos Shenzhen, he would still be the strongest sect in the cultivation world. These damned sects, I won't destroy you for now. I'll leave you for the future disciples of Shenzhen to practice. Murong Yu sneered in his heart. He didn't have a good impression of these top 10 sections. Many experts from these sects had tried to kill him. With Murong Yu's personality, this alone was enough to wipe out these sects thousands of times. However, he wanted to leave these sects to Shenzhen. After all, if he wiped out the entire cultivation world and left only Shenzhen, then Shenzhen would dominate the cultivation world. This wouldn't be very beneficial to Shenzhen's development. Before long, the half-step celestial from Yuan Su's sect returned with a brocade box in his hand. This is the Immortal Ascension Pill. If there's nothing else, Holy Lord Murong Yu, we won't keep you any longer. The half-step celestial tossed the brocade box to Murong Yu and ordered him to leave. Murong Yu opened the brocade box and saw that the Immortal Ascension Pill inside was indeed the same as the one he'd seen at the auction. Thus, he put it away in his Hichu Luo Shu. Slowly sweeping his gaze over the crowd, Murong Yu flew out of Yuan Su's sect with Duanmu Qing and the other 3 women. Then, Murong Yu's voice rang out from afar. What a bastard. I tried to reason with him, but he wouldn't listen. He only relented when I forced him to use force. Remember, don't try to reason with them in the future. Just kill them. Kill them until they're scared. Then they'll listen to your reasoning. Duanmu Qing and the other 3 women hurriedly nodded in agreement. When the Origin Void sect heard this, they almost spat out blood. Murong Yu was clearly mocking them for bullying the weak and fearing the strong. The Origin Void sect's members gnashed their teeth as they glared at Murong Yu, their killing intent surging. Murong Yu, we'll let you gloat for now. Once you ascend to the immortal world, we'll wipe your chaos Shenzhen from the cultivation world. Murong Yu was over the moon after obtaining the Immortal Ascension Pill. As long as he had the Immortal Ascension Pill, the Chaos Shenzhen would no longer be in the awkward position of being the only peak expert. In the end, Murong Yu no longer flew to the Chaos Shenzhen. Instead, he directly entered the Hichu Luo Shu and teleported back to the Shenzhen. Hichu, how is it? When can you mass-produce the Immortal Ascension Pill? In the Hichu Luo Shu world, Murong Yu handed the Immortal Ascension Pill to Hichu and asked anxiously. It won't take long for the Yin-Yang Cauldron to analyze the recipe for the Immortal Ascension Pill. However, there's one more thing we need to refine the Immortal Ascension Pill. Otherwise, we won't be able to refine it. What is it? Murong Yu frowned slightly. An Immortal Meridian. The Immortal Ascension Pill is a pill that only exists in the immortal world. Most of the spirit herbs are produced there and can't be found in the cultivation world. Even if the Yin-Yang Cauldron is heaven-defying, it won't be able to refine the Immortal Ascension Pill without an Immortal Meridian. After all, an ordinary spirit meridian doesn't have immortal spiritual energy. Even if we can refine the Immortal Ascension Pill, it won't be of any use. It won't be able to transform the immortal body. Immortal Meridian? Murong Yu frowned slightly. After killing Immortal Suda, he obtained 2 Immortal Meridians from Suda's storage ring. However, these 2 Immortal Meridians have been suppressed in the Shenzhen by him. These 2 Immortal Meridians were the core Immortal Meridians of the Shenzhen. Murong Yu would never use them to refine pills. Therefore, if he wanted to refine the Immortal Ascension Pill, he would have to think of another way. However, only the immortal world had immortal meridians. It was impossible in the cultivation world. Murong Yu couldn't ascend to the immortal world now. Even if he had the ability to ascend to the immortal world, it wouldn't be that easy for him to find immortal meridians. After all, immortal meridians were very precious to immortals. Immortal. Since Suda has 2 immortal meridians, the other immortals should also have immortal meridians. As long as I can kill them, I won't have to worry about immortal meridians. Murong Yu immediately set his sights on the immortals. However, they were immortals after all. Killing Suda last time was a bit of a fluke. How could he kill another immortal now? Moreover, it had to be a lone immortal. Likely Su and challenge immortals? Murong Yu frowned slightly. If that was the case, he could give it a try. Whoosh! In a flash, Murong Yu appeared on the heaven-ceasing peak. Then, he entered the main hall of the Enforcer. Just as he expected, the old man was in the main hall. Old man, I'm here to see you again. Murong Yu walked over with a smile and sat on a chair beside him. Tell me, what are you planning to do this time? Let me make it clear that I don't have any treasures on me. The enforcer glanced at Muronyu indifferently and closed his eyes again. Stingy, Muronyu said disdainfully. Don't worry, old man. I don't want any treasures this time. I just want to ask, who is the weakest immortal in the cultivation world? The enforcer opened his eyes and looked at Muronyu. What do you want to do? Nothing much. Recently, my hands have been itching to kill an immortal for fun. However, my strength is limited. I can only find the weakest one. Muronyu said with a smile. Kill an immortal for fun? You sure talk big. The enforcer couldn't help but laugh. This guy was really lawless. He hadn't even ascended yet, but he wanted to kill an immortal? Do you know that killing an immortal last time was purely a fluke? The enforcer looked at Muronyu and said indifferently. Although there was a trace of luck involved, if I were to fight with Suda again, I still have the confidence to kill him. Muronyu looked at the enforcer and said with a firm tone, when you killed Suda, your trump cards were all seen by the other immortals. The same method is useless against them. If you really want to challenge an immortal, I can stand guard for you. However, I definitely won't make a move. Alive or dead, I won't make a move. Do you understand? I understand. Muronyu nodded and said with a bitter smile. He had no choice. If he wanted to increase Shenzhen's strength, he had to kill immortals and obtain their immortal veins. Perhaps the old man also had immortal veins, but Muronyu had already obtained more than 200 immortal tools from him last time. If he asked for spirit veins again, Muronyu couldn't afford to lose face. Moreover, Muronyu also knew what the enforcer meant. He could stand guard and suppress the other immortals so that they wouldn't dare to make a move, but he wouldn't make a move even if Muronyu was killed. Otherwise, if he made a move when Muronyu was in danger, it would be detrimental to Muronyu's growth. Moreover, he was telling Muronyu to think twice before acting. However, even if the enforcer didn't say so, Muronyu himself wouldn't ask the enforcer to make a move. Against immortals, he had no problem protecting himself. Of course, it wasn't the strongest immortals. Among these immortals, the leader has already reached the exalted immortal realm. The rest are all in the celestial immortal realm. The one called Yuhui is the weakest, about the same as Suda you killed. You can go and challenge him. The enforcer said indifferently. Muronyu was immediately overjoyed. Although Suda was strong, he wasn't too strong. If this Yuhui was about the same as him, Muronyu was more confident that he could kill him. Old man, thank you. When I'm ready, I'll go and challenge this immortal. At that time, you can intimidate the other immortals. The enforcer didn't say anything. He only nodded slightly and then closed his eyes. Muronyu didn't stay here any longer. His figure flashed and left the heaven-ceasing peak, returning to Shenzhen. At the same time, the information about the immortals also reached Muronyu's hands. In a year since the establishment of Shenzhen, these immortals didn't do anything, nor did they target Muronyu. Instead, they all stayed in the immortal tomb. Obviously, the palaces in the immortal tomb were very attractive to these immortals. However, the flow of time outside the palaces was so fast that even immortals didn't dare to step inside. Everyone thought that immortals were immortals. However, they didn't know that immortals weren't immortals. Chapter 345. While Muronyu was discussing the strength of immortals with the enforcers on the heaven-ceasing peak, something big happened in the cultivation world. Little Rock King was originally ranked second on the Dragon Phoenix list. He was an expert of the younger generation, below Li Su and above Xueqin. However, because this person had always been on the Demon Mountain and had not come out into the world, no one in the cultivation world had ever seen him appear. Furthermore, no one knew how strong he was. However, it was not without reason that the person who made the Dragon Phoenix list ranked him second only to Li Su. After all, the ranking of the Dragon Phoenix list was quite authoritative. Because Li Su and Muronyu had killed immortals one after another, especially Muronyu, he still managed to surpass Li Su and become the strongest expert of the younger generation, suppressing Li Su and taking first place. Naturally, Little Rock King was ranked third, below Murong Yu and Li Su. However, the young experts on the Dragon Phoenix list were each more arrogant than the other. They were always unconvinced that their strength was below others. Especially when Li Su and Murong Yu had killed immortals one after another, it made the arrogant Little Rock King even more unhappy. Therefore, when Little Rock King was born, the first thing he did was challenge an immortal. This matter came very suddenly, and not many people knew about it. When Little Rock King fought with an immortal, there were also many people nearby. This battle was truly earth-shattering. The sky shattered, the earth cracked, and the rivers flowed. Little Rock King used his strength to tell the world that he was not ranked second on the Dragon Phoenix list for nothing. He really had the strength. However, it was a pity that although Little Rock King was extremely powerful, there were only a few people in the cultivation world who could defeat him. However, immortals were immortals after all. Not everyone could kill immortals before they became immortals. At least, in the Huaxia cultivation world, other than Murong Yu and Li Su, there was no third person who could kill immortals. Not even Little Rock King could. In this battle, the Little Rock King fought very happily, but it was also very hard. Under the absolute strength of the immortal, the Little Rock King even used a secret method to increase his cultivation. Although he injured the immortal, he was also seriously injured. He was heavily injured, but he had also injured the immortal. Such a battle record was extremely shocking. After being heavily injured, the Little Rock King managed to escape from the immortal's pursuit. This time, the Little Rock King displayed to the world the terrifying speed of the golden-winged great rocks. Little Rock King transformed into a golden-winged rock true god. With just a flap of his wings, he had already traversed a distance of 108,000 kilometers. The Little Rock King flapped his wings continuously and disappeared into the distant horizon. Even immortals could not catch up to him. It was precisely because of this that the Little Rock King was able to escape the pursuit of the immortals. Perhaps it was because of his confidence in his speed that the Little Rock King dared to challenge an immortal. Little Rock King was indeed one of the races that was best at speed. Although his speed was not as fast as Murong Yu's, it was close. However, even Murong Yu was not confident that he could beat Little Rock King in terms of speed. The result would only be known after a competition. However, apart from Murong Yu, Little Rock King's speed was undoubtedly the fastest in the cultivation world. At this moment, Little Rock King finally appeared in front of the world. Moreover, this guy had appeared to challenge an immortal, which was a shocking feat. Interesting. Little Rock King was actually able to escape the pursuit of the immortals after being heavily injured. In addition to Li Su and myself, the current cultivation world of Huaxia is really full of talents. Murong Yu secretly praised himself. Then, he gave a few instructions and left Shenzhen in a flash. When he reappeared, he had already arrived at Qingxian Peak in the Hidden Fairy Valley. The moment he appeared on Qingxian Peak, he realized that the spirit qi on Qingxian Peak was much denser than before. Although it was still far from being as dense as Shenzhen's spirit qi, it was much denser than the other peaks in the Hidden Fairy Valley. Perhaps after Zhao Jiqing returned, she had already suppressed the level 9 spirit vein that Murong Yu had given her on Qingxian Peak. Murong Yu didn't care about this. After all, he had already given it to Zhao Jiqing. Whatever Zhao Jiqing wanted to do, he definitely wouldn't interfere. Seeing Murong Yu appear again, the disciples of Qingxian Peak all bowed respectfully to him. Whether it was Murong Yu's strength or identity, they respected and even worshipped him. Jiqing, I want to see the first disciple of the Hidden Fairy Valley, Li Su. After finding Zhao Jiqing, Murong Yu went straight to the point. You want to see Senior Brother Li? Zhao Jiqing frowned slightly. What do you want to do? Murong Yu's heart suddenly jumped. Zhao Jiqing was indeed the person who understood him the most. Just from the fact that Murong Yu wanted to see Li Su, she could vaguely guess his thoughts. But How could Morongyu tell her? Laughing, Morongyu smiled and said, "It's nothing. I'm just curious to see this person who is as famous as me. I often go to the hidden fairy valley, but I've never seen him before. This is a pity." Really? Zhao Jiqing looked suspiciously at Morongyu. Morongyu smiled and said, "What else do you think I'm doing? Don't do anything dangerous." Zhao Jiqing stared at Morongyu for a long time before suddenly saying this. Morongyu was startled. He then hugged Zhao Jiqing and said, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I still cherish my life." Zhao Jiqing nodded and then brought Morongyu away from Qingxian Peak to Morning Sun Peak. Morning Sun Peak is where senior brother Li is. Besides him, senior sister Li is also cultivating on the peak. Zhao Jiqing explained when they arrived at Morning Sun Peak. Senior sister Li? The legendary #1 on the 100-flower list, Li Sisi? Aya! Morongyu suddenly exclaimed. What's wrong? Zhao Jiqing looked at Morongyu's sudden change in expression and asked curiously. With her understanding of Morongyu's reaction was definitely not because of Li Sisi. On the 100-flower list, you are number 3. Above you are Yin Lanchen and Li Sisi. Yin Lanchen is the saintess of Zhushenzong. Although we destroyed Zhushenzong that day, we didn't find their saintess and saint child. Morongyu said in a low voice. What's so strange about that? Although Yin Lanchen's strength is not bad, she's only in the transformation stage. After you killed those powerhouses that day and established the primal chaos Shenzhen, she might have left with those disciples. Maybe. Morongyu vaguely felt that something was wrong, but he didn't care. With his strength, he could even destroy Zhushenzong, let alone a mere leftover woman. Moreover, with Shenzhen's strength, if the enforcers of the cultivation realm didn't make a move, no one would be able to shake Shenzhen. We're going up like this? Morongyu pointed at Morning Sun Peak and was about to fly up. Zhao Jiqing rolled her eyes at him. That's too rude. Let's find someone to report first. Morongyu shrugged indifferently and allowed Zhao Jiqing to go find the disciples of Morning Sun Peak. The charm of a beauty was indeed irresistible. After the disciples of Morning Sun Peak saw Zhao Jiqing, they ran up to report before Zhao Jiqing even finished speaking. Morongyu looked at them with disdain. If he went, he might not be able to reason with them, right? Morongyu laughed in his heart. Not long after, a woman in white with her face covered floated up from Morning Sun Peak like a fairy. Could this be the other saintess of your hidden fairy valley, the #1 on the 100-flower list, Li Sisi? Morongyu said with a face of shock. She is indeed senior sister Li. You should have seen her before. Zhao Jiqing covered her mouth and laughed. Morongyu rolled his eyes. He had seen this woman before, and it wasn't the first time. It was just that he didn't expect her to be the #1 beauty. Junior sister Zhao. A clear and pleasant voice, like an oriole's, was heard. Then, a faint fragrance wafted over. Li Sisi had already arrived in front of Morongyu and Zhao Jiqing. Sister Zhao. Zhao Jiqing sweetly called out. Li Sisi nodded slightly, then looked at Morongyu. I am Li Sisi. Greetings to senior brother Morong. You've seen me before, but I haven't seen you yet. Speaking of which, you've been wearing this veil all day long. Is it hot? Morongyu rolled his eyes and said with a bit of annoyance. It was as if he felt like he was at a disadvantage for being seen, but not seeing anyone else. Was it hot? As a cultivator, they were naturally immune to heat and cold. Not to mention that it was just a piece of gauze. Even if it was covered with a quilt, it wouldn't feel hot. Li Sisi giggled. I don't have anything to look at. Junior sister Zhao is much prettier than me. Of course, I've always doubted your and Yin Lanchen's looks. How can you be as pretty as my Jiqing? Morongyu laughed. Zhao Jiqing's pretty face blushed slightly, and she rolled her eyes at Morongyu. Then, she took Li Sisi's hand and said, He wants to see Senior Brother Li. I wonder if Senior Brother Li is up there? Brother was called over by the Valley Master, but he should be back soon. If Senior Brother Morong doesn't mind, you can wait at Morning Sun Peak for a while. Lead the way. Morongyu said lightly. Li Sisi led Morongyu and Zhao Jiqing up Morning Sun Peak. Along the way, she chatted and laughed with Zhao Jiqing. However, what made Li Sisi feel strange was that Murong Yu didn't look sideways at all. With her charm, even if there was a veil between them, there were few men who wouldn't be attracted to her. But in front of Murong Yu, she was like transparent air. This was a big blow to Li Sisi. But looking at Zhao Jiqing next to her, she suddenly understood. In fact, Murong Yu didn't really treat her as a beauty. She was just a woman with a veil. What was there to look at? And in terms of beauty, Zhao Jiqing wasn't bad either. In fact, in Murong Yu's eyes, Yu Mengqing, who was slightly less beautiful, was much more attractive than this Li Sisi. Chapter 346. Li Su, the former #1 expert on the Dragon Phoenix list and the #1 expert of the younger generation, looked like an extremely ordinary youth. At this moment, Li Su was standing in front of Murong Yu, looking at Murong Yu with a curious gaze. Murong Yu was also sizing up Li Su. He looked to be about 27 or 28 years old, and had an ordinary face that would be difficult to recognize in a crowd. There was also nothing special about him. He just looked like an ordinary youth. In fact, he even looked like an extremely ordinary mortal. After sizing up Li Su, if it weren't for Murong Yu's powerful strength and sharp senses, he really would have thought that Li Su was an extremely ordinary mortal. After a long while, Murong Yu thought to himself, this guy definitely has a magic treasure that can hide his aura or a cultivation technique similar to the aura concealment technique. At this moment, Murong Yu gave Li Su a similar feeling. However, Murong Yu appeared much more delicate and handsome. Moreover, he didn't look very old, only about 23 or 24 years old. Seeing Murong Yu and Li Su looking at each other so affectionately, Li Sisi couldn't help but snort. She was especially dissatisfied with Murong Yu. She even began to suspect that Murong Yu's actions were a bit abnormal. He ignored the two beauties and stared at Li Su for a long time. If Murong Yu knew what Li Sisi was thinking right now, would he be in tears? You're just a woman with a veil over her face. What's there to look at? After a long while, Murong Yu asked, "You're Li Su?" Li Su nodded. "You're Murong Yu?" Murong Yu also nodded. Then, the two of them looked at each other and laughed. "It's an honor to meet you at last." The two of them laughed heartily and said polite words like, "I've heard a lot about you," which made Zhao Jiqing and Li Sisi want to kick them. "Murong Yu, Holy Master Shengzhen, you've come to Morning Sun Peak for some reason, right?" After a long while, Li Su finally couldn't help but ask, "Yes, there are some things about men. Let's go inside and talk." Murong Yu placed his hand on Li Su's shoulder and glanced at Zhao Jiqing and Li Sisi. Li Su didn't refuse and nodded. He put his arm around Murong Yu's shoulder and walked into the hall, leaving Zhao Jiqing and Li Sisi looking at each other. The two women looked at each other and said, "When did they become so familiar with each other? Is this the first time we've met?" The two women were puzzled. They didn't know why these two fellows had already put their arms around each other's shoulders when they just met. They were not men, so they could never understand the relationship between men. Some men didn't have deep relationships, even if they knew each other for their entire lives. Some men felt like old friends, even if they met for the first time, and were like brothers. Just like Murong Yu, Little Ape King, and Little Lion King, this was a man's style. It was hard for women to understand. In the hall, "What? We're going to kill an immortal?" After hearing Murong Yu's explanation, Li Su jumped up from his seat in shock. He looked at Murong Yu with a face full of shock. Seeing Li Su's reaction, Murong Yu was a bit disdainful. "Can you not be so embarrassing? In any case, you are someone who has killed an immortal." Li Su smiled embarrassedly and realized that his actions were a bit too much. He sat back down and looked at Murong Yu with a wry smile. "Murong Yu, you're stronger than me and have more treasures than me. You can easily kill an immortal. Although I was lucky enough to kill an immortal last time, I was also heavily injured. With the help of the sect elders, I recovered a few days ago." Murong Yu looked at Li Su with disdain. "That was because you were alone, but now it's the two of us. Just tell me, do you agree or not? This time, if I didn't want to make sure nothing goes wrong, I would have gone alone. With Murong Yu's strength, killing the weakest immortal shouldn't be a problem. But what he feared the most was that the immortal would run away. If the immortal ran away, Muronyu didn't have much confidence in stopping him. After all, that old man Punisher wouldn't do anything. And if Li Su joined in, Muronyu was 100% sure that he could kill the immortal. You're not killing immortals to make a name for yourself, are you? With your current status in the cultivation world, you don't need to kill immortals to make a name for yourself. Li Su looked at him with a puzzled expression. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me. These immortals descended to the mortal realm mainly because of me. Although it seems like they've been intimidated and don't dare to attack me, they won't be able to remain silent for long. But they can't stay silent forever. One day, they will make a move against me. We've always been enemies. If they don't kill me, I'll kill them. Li Su's eyes flashed. So, with your personality, you want to make the first move? Muronyu nodded. That's only one aspect. The most important thing is that I need something from them. What is it? How do you know it's on your target? Li Su hurriedly asked. Muronyu didn't hide it. Immortal meridians. I need their immortal meridians. This time, it was Li Su's turn to look at Muronyu with disdain. Your appetite is too big. Shangzhen already has 2 immortal meridians. You want more? I have great use for immortal meridians. According to my guess, these immortals all have 2 immortal meridians. If you participate, we'll split the 2 immortal meridians and the other immortal items. What do you think? Muronyu looked at Li Su with disdain. Sometimes I really wonder if there's something wrong with your brain. When you killed the immortal, you didn't take his storage ring. They were immortals. Even the most ordinary pills are immortal pills. They're not available in the cultivation world. Also, if I'm wrong, the immortal you killed probably had 2 immortal meridians in his storage ring. Stop talking. Li Su was a bit depressed. In reality, when he found out that Muronyu had suppressed 2 immortal meridians in the Chaos Shangzhen, Li Su had already guessed the origin of the immortal meridians. He regretted it then. It wasn't just him. The experts in the Hidden Fairy Valley were also filled with regret. Back then, when he killed that immortal, he should have taken his storage ring. It was filled with immortal items, which were priceless treasures to cultivators in the cultivation world. If time could turn back, Li Su would have taken the storage ring of the immortal he killed without hesitation. How about it? Want to join us? Muronyu chuckled. Okay, I agree. When do we start? Li Su gritted his teeth. In the end, he couldn't help but agree. No rush. Although we already have 2 people, I think we should bring one more. What do you think? You mean Little Peng King? Li Su frowned. Muronyu nodded. If he and Li Su fought, ordinary immortals would die without a doubt. However, Muronyu couldn't guarantee that there would only be 1 immortal. If there were 2, then their chances of winning would be slim. Although Little Peng King's strength wasn't as strong as the 2 of them, his speed was much faster than Li Su's. He could hold back an immortal. I heard that Little Peng King is extremely arrogant. We have no relationship with him. Would he agree? Li Su frowned. Little Peng King challenged immortals as soon as he was born. It was obvious that he wanted to surpass Muronyu and Li Su. At the very least, he didn't want to be suppressed by the 2 of them. Would such an arrogant person work with him? Let's try. Muronyu wasn't sure either. With that, the 2 of them left the Hidden Fairy Valley and soon arrived in Chang'an City. Ha! A Muronyu. To think that we would meet here. This must be fate. When the Little Ape King and Little Lion King saw Muronyu in a restaurant, they laughed heartily and walked over. Yes, Ape Dong. You're Dong. Everyone was stunned, then laughed loudly. They didn't mind Murongyu's vulgar words. Yeah, the fire-eyed golden ape and the big black dog aren't with you? Who's this? Seeing that the fire-eyed golden ape and the big black dog weren't with Muronyu, Little Lion King and Little Lion King were very surprised. Can't help it. Shangzhen doesn't have any experts, so I left the 2 of them in Shangzhen to be the sex divine beasts. Hearing this, Little Ape King and Little Lion King both had strange expressions on their faces. 2 poor children. That's right, he's Li Su, the fierce person who killed immortals. Muronyu introduced Li Su. Little Ape King and Little Lion King, as well as the people in the restaurant, were all shocked. The only person in the cultivation world who could kill immortals before becoming immortals was here. They were all lucky enough to see it. Little Lion King and Little Ape King were shocked at first, but then they became familiar with each other, and the four of them began to talk about everything. This time I didn't meet you by chance. I came specially to find you. You two bastards, you didn't even congratulate me on the establishment of Shenzhen. Now, no matter what, you should give me 1 or 2 immortal tools as compensation. Immortal tools? Do you think we're like you, giving us immortal tools? We don't even have spirit tools now, but we heard that Shenzhen has immortal veins. We were planning to go to Shenzhen to eat and drink. Damn it, we were confined in the Demon Mountain and couldn't come out. We almost suffocated to death. Little Ape King cursed unhappily. You've already reached the first step immortal realm? With your strength, you should have no problem dealing with ordinary half-step immortals. With your aptitude, ascension shouldn't be a problem. However, if you have time, go visit Shenzhen. Immortal veins are good for your immortal body. Morone, you only now noticed that the two of them had broken through. Compared to you two, we're too weak. Little Ape King and Little Lion King were moved, but they didn't say anything. They only toasted Morone you. By the way, why are you looking for us? You should know Little Punk King, right? Li Su asked. Damn it, brothers, you know we've been wronged. Are you going to take revenge for us? Little Ape King and Little Lion King were shocked, and then they shed tears of gratitude. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.